Everybody's ready. Mike Lynch.
Good to go.
Perfect. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the November 17th, 2020 meeting of the Milton Conservation Commission. Members of the commission have been appointed by the Select Board to implement the rules and regulations of the State Wetlands Protection Act, as well as the Milton Town Bylaw governing the wetlands. As a matter of formality, we ask everybody that joins us that wishes to speak, ask a question, make a comment, to simply identify themselves for the record in accordance with the open meeting law. And also, as a matter of formality, we introduce ourselves. My name is John Kiernan. Can we go around, Steve?
Steve Ivers, Conservation Agent.
Hans?
Hans Van Lingen.
Wendy?
I'm Wendy Garpo.
And I don't see Todd. But are you there, Todd?
He's muted.
Uh-oh.
Unmute yourself, Todd. Oh, there he is.
Can you hear me?
Now we can, yes, indeed.
Okay, I'm here. I did it.
You're a 21st century guy.
Yeah, this is the first for me.
Well, listen, welcome to the Milton Conservation Commission. And for the public's benefit, Todd was sworn in, what, yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're less than 24, well, maybe just 24 hours. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Hi, Todd. Welcome.
Thank you.
Indeed.
And, so with that, we'll begin. Number one on the agenda is informational. This is Milton Academy, 170 Center Street. This is a
yes.
hearing.
Mr. Corcoran could not be here tonight, so he asked me to read 3 paragraphs, and I'm going to do that, okay?
That's perfect. Thank you.
The purpose of this email is to provide you and the Conservation Commission a second update following the initial update provided at the Commission's October 13th meeting regarding Milton Academy's continued efforts to address issues identified on Gun Hill Street. These issues were detailed in the Commission's Enforcement Order, EO, received on October 15th, 2020. As noted in the last update, all activities of concern brought to the school's attention have ceased. As shared previously, Williams and Sparagus, LLC, or WNS, was hired to assist the school in its response to the EO and to prepare a notice of intent, NOI, for the Commission's review and approval. On October 16th, 2020, a professional wetland scientist delineated both the BVW and the mean annual high water associated with Unquity Brook as requested in the EO. On that same day, W&S installed stakes along the approximate 200-foot riverfront area boundary to visually indicate the jurisdictional limits area for Milton Academy staff. This was done at Milton Academy's request to ensure continued compliance with the EO. To address the other steps requested in the EO, W&S completed its initial research and has scheduled a survey crew to complete a topographic mapping and survey of the area of interest the week of November 16th. Following the survey, W&S will use the survey data to inform a restoration/stabilization plan to accompany the notice of intent, which will be submitted in December. We understand there will be insufficient time to advertise for a hearing in December, so we would propose joining the Commission's December meeting to preview the notice of intent and anticipate starting a full hearing in January. Thank you for your time. If you have questions regarding this information, please do not hesitate to contact me directly, Ned Corcoran, for Milton Academy.
All right. Thanks, Steve, for reading that. And thanks to Mr. Corcoran for sending it. And for the public's benefit, the issue of the enforcement order was landfilling in the vicinity of the brook that runs into Milton Cemetery, that crosses underneath Gun Hill and crosses into the pond at the cemetery. And it is definitely within the 200-foot distance from that perennial stream. And we issued the enforcement order to stop the filling. The Academy, I believe, is working at this time in good faith to remedy the situation. Are there any questions or comments before we continue this until the next meeting in December? I see none or hear none from the commissioners. Are there any members of the public that would ask a question or like to make a comment? Hearing none, we'll continue this matter until the December meeting. What's the date of that, Steve? Do you have a date?
December 8th, Tuesday, December 8th.
Perfect, thank you. Number 2 on the agenda is request for determination of applicability at 11 Unquity Road, and that's the DCR Yulin Rink. Is there someone to present for the DCR?
Yes. Hi.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. My name's Stephanie Farrington, and I'm the Environmental Permitting Assistant for DCR. So we are proposing to reclaim and repave the existing parking lot at 111 Unquity Road. It's currently an asphalt parking lot in poor condition. And so we're just proposing to reclaim and repave in kind in the existing footprint of the parking lot. Portions of the lot are within the 200-foot riverfront area, as well as the buffer zone to BBW. We have the image up on the screen here. That's excellent. So again, the project is entirely within buffer zone and riverfront area, but because it's a parking lot, it doesn't meet the minor exemption for roadways. We are proposing for BMPs, straw wattles with natural fiber netting along the existing guardrail, which is along the south and west sides of the lot.
Stephanie, can I ask you, along I guess it would be the west side of the parking lot, is there a berm there where the parking lot adjoins the buffer zone?
There is, yes. The entire lot is surrounded by curb, so it's all confined, and there is an existing catch basin on the exit side of the lot.
And do you know where that catch basin discharges?
I do not know.
Okay. Can I ask you one other question? And Steve, if you can show I think the northern side of the picture, if you can just slide the photograph a little bit.
Certainly.
On the, Stephanie, if I can draw your attention to the northern side of that, which would be on the Canton Avenue side of the rink itself.
Mm-hmm.
Do you intend to pave that area as well?
Just where it's existing as you come off of the road. So it would just be resurfacing what's already there, but we're not expanding the parking lot or the entryway or exits.
Okay, actually, I'm out of the parking lot and I'm
John, are you talking about where they use the machine to clean the ice further up?
It's the entrance for the Zamboni.
Yeah, you got to bring it down further, Steve.
Yeah, I don't think I have that I don't have that in the picture.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah,
That's up in here somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, that's on the other side of the building.
Yeah.
correct. It is indeed. And are you doing any paving in that area?
No.
Okay. All right. And just for sort of the back of your mind, we have had some issues on that other side in terms of piling of the snow, because the snow does have some chemical components to it because of the painting and whatever chemicals they use in the ice. And every year it seems to get further and further into the wetlands. And I think the DCR did establish some guardrails there as well. And at one time we had problems because the snow was getting dumped on the other side of the guardrail. I know that's not part of this project, but just in the back of your mind, if you could ask the folks to keep an eye on that. So
Yes,
that it
thank you,
stays
Chris.
on the building side of that guardrail, because the guardrail is there not just to stop cars or trucks from going into the wetlands, but it was also to stop, it was to demark where the snow that was taken off of the ice, that it was a limit of storage there.
Thank you for
All right.
letting me know. I'll pass that along.
All right, thank you.
And John, I should add that I took a look at the flags and they're just fine.
Good, all right.
Wetland flags, okay,
That's
the
on
BBW
west
flag.
side of the west side of the law?
Yes.
All right, perfect. All right, any questions from commissioners for this? This is an RDA, and the DCR has requested a negative determination, with our standard conditions, obviously, for best management practices and the straw wattles, as Stephanie has already indicated. But are there additional comments or concerns that folks would like to bring up?
When is the work going to be done?
Originally it was slated for this fall. Schedules got pushed back a little because of the pandemic. So I believe it will not be until the spring.
I mean, they don't use the rink, if I'm not mistaken, in the summertime. Am I right or wrong on that?
I believe it's still open, but it's obviously not as much as in the winter.
I mean, it's just my opinion. It doesn't mean anything, but if you were going to pay that, and because you got water right next to it, it'd be better to do it in July or August when it's really dry and you have less rainstorms in the spring, you know what I mean, for runoff. I don't think it would matter much if you moved it up just a couple of months, because the summertime, the rink is usually dead.
Sounds like a fair penny plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm?
I mean, that's the only thing that I can see to try and control it, because the April and May, you can get those heavy rains. You know, if it's ripped apart, it'll be a mess.
Go again. Very true. Wendy, Hans, any other comments or questions?
I'm wondering, is there any kind of treatment to the stormwater currently?
I don't believe there is, but that's just going back historically. There may be some oil separators in the parking lot, but I actually don't recall.
I would agree with that, John. I think if anything, it would be an oil separator in the existing catch basin. And I didn't mention this, but we would put filter fabric in the catch basin as well.
Okay.
As a temporary thing, Stephanie,
Yes, just during the construction.
during the construction? And so, John, can you help me understand, there is no treatment currently for the stormwater runoff because the parking lot has been there for a long time prior to our regulations?
Certainly prior to the town bylaw, yes. I can't remember. Todd, you might remember. I know as a kid I used to skate where the parking lot is, but it has been there probably since the 70s. I don't know if it was that size. There have been, over the years, expansions of the parking lot. It's gone further in a southerly direction away from where the rink is. Originally, the rink was outside. And then
Yeah, I played hockey there too, John, as a kid in 1970, so I remember it.
Yeah. Then they put a roof on it, and then they put sides on it.
Yeah.
Progress. So the answer to Wendy's question is I actually don't know what's there in terms of any kind of purification or removal of solids or oil separators. I actually don't know what's in there, and it might be worth certainly finding out, because it would give us an opportunity to put an oil separator in if it's not there currently.
Yeah.
Stephanie, is there any way you could check on that? I don't think that's a huge project to add if the catch basin already exists.
Yeah, I can certainly check on that, and it would be something we'd be amenable to if it was included as a condition.
All right, good. Do you know, Todd, if you can take an existing catch basin, or Hans, you might know, and add an oil separator to it, or do you have to change the invert for that?
No, you could put it next to it and just raise the oil separator tank if you had to. Either way, I mean, you can make it work.
Okay. Okay.
Keep in mind, it would change the scope of the project slightly, as opposed to just milling and resurfacing. You're now talking about excavation. And so, we are increasing the impact by conditioning that. So
The catch basin itself is outside of the buffer zone.
oh, it is. Okay.
It's not marked on the image, but it's between those two trees in the middle.
Okay.
Well, that'd be
So, yeah,
great. If DCR is a meeting.
that'd be fine.
Yeah, it's right there. Yep.
All right, that sounds like a good deal for us, and the environment, if DCR is amenable to adding an oil separator, if one does not exist as a condition of this project, that makes good sense for us, I believe.
I would agree.
All right, any other conditions or terms if we were to issue a negative determination? Hearing none, are there any questions or comments from members of the public? And Todd, sometimes we have people calling in, even if they're not on the Zoom.
Okay.
So we have to stall a little bit to see if there's anybody that has a
Okay.
question. All right, hearing none, is there, was there somebody?
I'm sorry, John, just one more question. I'm just curious if that one catch basin is adequate for nearly I mean, we're looking at an acre almost of impervious surface. Is that,
You are correct. It's the size of a lot. You are correct.
is one catch basin adequate treatment for that?
Well, at that point, you'd have to redesign the whole thing and retention ponds. And I mean, I don't know how you're going to put that in there now. You know, something existing like that, it's going to discharge below the grade of the parking lot.
Yeah, it's beyond the scope certainly of their proposal. And Wendy, it's almost like, do you remember when we were at 1439 Rush Hill Road and we had I forget the terminology for a culvert that's above the bed of the stream? It's
The word is perched. Yeah.
perched culvert. And that was, everybody, it made sense to everybody. It would be nice if it weren't perched and it met the base of the channel of the stream. But it really was outside of the purview of the project and the applicant's request. So there was really not a whole lot we could do about that. I know what you're saying. It probably would make a good idea if there were, additional catch basins there. Because I'm not even sure if the catch basin is designed to take water off the roadway before it gets to the parking area, or if the parking area itself is sloped towards the catch basin to take water off the parking lot. I actually don't know which way it's going. Stephanie, do you know if that's to catch water off of Unquity Road or if it's to catch water off of the parking area?
I believe it's sloped so that it's off of the road.
That's my impression and memory.
I would agree with that.
So I don't think there's anything currently in place, Wendy.
Okay,
And I'm not, I think there is an improvement to repaving it, as long as it's done, as Todd suggested, in a dry season with the erosion controls. Because I think if it starts to break apart, particularly at the edge, that's a problem for us. Because that's why I asked the question about the berm. And if there's a curb around that west side, I think that's a good idea. So I'd like to keep that in place, and I think that has an overall benefit for us. So I would not be inclined to change the scope of the project to add catch basins, but I'd be delighted if we could make one of the conditions the oil separator in the existing catch basin as it currently exists.
all right, John, just reel me in. I'm happy with baby steps.
All right, Hans, I can't see you, but do you have any thoughts or comments? I think that's an appropriate approach.
No, that's fine. I mean, whatever they're willing to do is to improve the water quality there, considering the scope. Works for me.
All right. Well, actually, apropos of Wendy's comment, Stephanie, do you have a response to that in terms of putting in a catch basin?
I think probably for what the scope of this project is, it's not something we're considering, just because of the additional design that comes with that. But if we were to ever expand the parking lot or change it beyond just resurfacing, that would definitely be something we'd want to consider.
That's the answer I expected, but I thought I should ask the question.
That seems fair. Yeah.
It does.
All right. Any other comments, questions, concerns? With that, is there a motion to issue a negative determination for the RDA with the conditions that we've stated, including the addition of the oil separator to the existing catch basin, and as well as the filter for the, during any construction, the filter cloth in that catch basin, as well as the wattles, straw wattles along the limit of work.
So moved.
All right. Any discussion? Yeah, I'm sorry. Is there a second, Hans?
I'll second.
Thanks, Wendy.
Third.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Steve, I assume you got that, and Stephanie,
I
thank
did.
you. Good. Stephanie, thank you very much for presenting this.
We
Thank you.
don't do thirds, Todd, but I admire your
Okay.
enthusiasm.
Well, I didn't know what I was supposed to do. No one told me.
Right.
All right.
I'm just glad I'm not the newbie anymore. So-
All right, thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Next on the agenda is notice of intent. This is at 4 Breck Street. And I think we have a presenter tonight.
Yes, good evening to the honorable members of the commission. My name is Robert Nislik. I'm counsel to the applicants, Lydia Masonette and George Vallada, the owners of 4 Breck Street. And
Robert, I have to stop you and say thank you very much. No one has ever referred to us as honorable members.
I know.
Thank you. So we have prepared a notice of intent application that was prepared by Mark Manganello. He is an environmental scientist with LEC Environmental Consultants of Plymouth. And he's here on the call and is ready to make the presentation.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, indeed,
Great.
thank you.
So this notice of intent is for improvements to the existing single-family dwelling at 4 Breck Street. As you can see on the plan here, the property is relatively small. It's about 7,500 square feet in total. There's 50 feet of frontage on Breck Street, and it extends back 150 feet, about 150 feet from the road toward Pine Tree Brook, which is located off-site to the north. It's a perennial stream. It flows within a concrete channel. It's very linear, clearly man-made. And the 200-foot riverfront area extending from the brook encompasses the entire property. So that's the jurisdictional resource area that is associated with this project and triggered the notice of intent. There are no vegetated wetlands on the property, and there are really no naturally vegetated areas on the property. It's essentially all developed. There's a single family dwelling, detached garage, paved driveway, a lawn area to the rear of the garage, and the property is enclosed with chain link and wood stockade fencing on all 3 sides. The project involves several improvements to the property. Number 1, the existing fence is to be removed and replaced with a 6-foot high vinyl fence, which will be placed on the property line. You can see on the plan here that the existing fence is slightly off the property line, so that the new fence will be placed right on the property line. The driveway will be repaved and expanded slightly. There's a small area toward the rear of the dwelling where the driveway would be expanded by just a couple hundred square feet. The total repaving is 2,380 square feet. The front steps will be replaced. The roofs and the gutters on the 2 buildings will be replaced within their existing footprint, all 3 of those. There's a large Norway maple along the property line. You can see where it says tree to be removed on the plan there. You can zoom in on that. It's large, it's diseased, it's definitely a danger. The applicants hired an arborist to have a look at it, and we attached a letter to the NOI from the arborist recommending that the tree be removed and noting that it's diseased. It would be flush cut where it sits, and then ground in place essentially where it's at. There's a stone infiltration area proposed just to the left of the garage. This is for stormwater infiltration. It's about 450 square feet in size. There would be 6 inches of 3/4 inch stone placed there. The existing soil surface would be scraped out to make space for it essentially. And this area would receive runoff from the driveway, which would be pitched towards this area. And the roof runoff from the garage and the house would also be directed there. Mr. Ivas had a few comments about this and asked us to provide some additional information to support the design of the proposed stone infiltration area. And just today, we got a letter from Rob Gemma from Metro West Engineering, who he spent a little time reviewing it and wrote a nice letter summarizing the sizing of it, essentially supporting that it's a conservatively designed feature for a property of this size and with stormwater generated from the features on this property. That's in your file now. And as mitigation, we're proposing native plantings along the property line. Along the proposed fence, we've proposed native shrubs spaced 5 feet on center. There really isn't much in the way of native vegetation here, so this will result in a modest improvement to the protection of the resource area. And lastly, the proposed lawn area to the rear of the garage will be reestablished. It's kind of in rough shape right now, so that'll be reestablished and maintained going forward. We have erosion control proposed along the limit of work, as you can see on the plan. And that's essentially an overview of the project. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, it's a good plan. It's very helpful to us. I do have a question about the area adjacent to the stream, proposed native planting beds. We have that makes good sense to me, but my concern is that we try not to have landscaped lawns, especially with fertilizer, within the 25-foot area. And we've all been to the site, which is great. And for the public's benefit, the Conservation Commission was there, about 3 weeks ago, I guess, because we wanted to inspect the tree. And I think we all had some concerns with the tree in terms of its health. But I just want to make sure that what I'm looking at here, where it says proposed native planting beds, you're not talking about a lawn, a fertilized landscape lawn there. Is that correct?
Well, the planting beds that's referring to the perimeter right along the edge of the existing lawn area, where we would remove some of the lawn from there and plant the shrubs. There's not an intent for that to be a landscape, like a mulched landscape feature. That's not the intent. It would be probably like a leaf compost mulch, if anything, below the shrubs so they can become established.
Okay. All right. We're trying, there's a real movement statewide, which you probably know, to move towards low nitrogen fertilizer in the area of resource areas.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be, one of our conditions, at least in that area there.
Yeah, I think we'd be amenable to that.
All right. Comments? Wendy, I think you were there, and Hans, I think you were on site at our site walk at the end of October.
I wasn't. I had to leave a bit early, but
Okay.
how many plants are you proposing within the beds?
Let's see. I have to measure it to give you a precise answer. We didn't give a specific number, but it's 5 feet on center, so it's about, looks like a little more than 100 feet of 100 linear feet. Well, that's actually more than that, about 150 linear feet that would be covered. So looks maybe 40 would fit in there, a little less than that.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm just making sure that was, even though the tree is diseased, just offsetting whatever tree removal is there, and that should more than cover that.
Yeah.
How deep is that proposed planting bed, Mark? I'm having a hard time figuring that out from looking at the plan.
Like how wide would it be from the fence?
Yes.
I would imagine right around 5 feet. So it would be 5 feet out and then 5 feet in between each plant.
So 5 feet out from the retaining wall.
Yes. It's a fence, but not a retaining wall. Oh, you mean in the rear, by the concrete
Yes.
wall?
Yes, in the back by the brook.
Yes. Yep, 5 feet.
It would be great if that planting bed could be almost like a vegetated buffer between the lawn and the brook. But it should probably be wider than 5 feet, I think, in order to serve that purpose.
Commission, I have a question regarding our approving a planting bed that's not on the applicant's property. As I understand, the applicant's property ends here. Okay, and there's probably, what, 20 feet or so between the end of the property and the retaining wall? Is that correct?
Yep.
I didn't realize that.
I didn't realize that.
I knew
Right.
there was an easement there, but I didn't know it was actually the property line.
Yeah, I don't think the commission can okay that, can they?
No, not if it's not on your property. True.
Right, right. So, you know, Mark and Robert, I think that would have to come off the plan for this to become a plan of record.
Sure.
Just my guess. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, it is, but I can see the line on the plan, and I defer. Mark, you seem to confirm that is the property line, the orange line there. I
Yes.
actually thought it was an easement back from the retaining, actually back from the center of the brook. But if that's the property line, then yeah, it would be a problem having a proposal on somebody else's land.
I think my understanding is that when the property was initially laid out, the lot extended all the way back towards the brook. But at some point in time, the town of Milton made a taking in fee, and that probably of the rear portion of all of these lots, and that affected essentially the area of the lot.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
It's town of Milton land. That was my understanding as well from reviewing the assessor's map. So I think the commission theoretically could approve that on behalf of the town of Milton. But I don't think we're opposed. I mean, if you're not comfortable with that, I don't think.
On the plan, my issue is on the plan. What happens to it after the plan is recorded is another story entirely. Right, John?
Steve, that sounds like a wink and a nod.
That's exactly what it was.
Well, it's conservation land then, isn't it, John? It's ours, isn't it?
I doubt it. In terms of the fee, it probably went, if it's a taking by the town, it probably went directly to the town as opposed to the Conservation Commission. And I understand that we're an entity of the town, but we do hold fee to a lot of parcels around the town. I don't think that's one of ours. It's definitely the town of Milton.
I think the taking might have been taken perhaps in the 1930s, like a very long time ago.
Yeah.
But it was probably taken for maintenance and stuff to deal with the brook.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, you're right, Todd, but a lot of the brook has a 50-foot easement extending, from the center of the brook.
Yeah.
And that's what's surprising, that the town actually took this land in fee. But I accept that, and I don't think I agree with Steve that I don't think we can approve a plan on somebody else's land. It's almost like the Heritage Hall there, the American Legion building their new whatever
Pavilion.
pavilion. Yeah, the pavilion on DCR land. It wasn't a problem for us because they removed it. We didn't approve it, but it was interesting that they had a new project on somebody else's land, and that became problematic. But they were good enough to remove it from DCR land. So I would say if we could, I think we can still move forward, but I think an acceptable plan would have to not show any proposal for land that belongs to the town. And I appreciate the comment that we could do it for the town, but I don't think the commission is in a position to do that at this juncture. Although, let me open that up. I mean, I have any thoughts on that? Because it would certainly look nice, and we do need to make sure that like if that were, let me see, I'm trying to think of an analogy, and I think the closest one would be 50 Summer Street, where the folks put in a irrigation system onto Conservation Commission land. Wendy, that definitely was our land. That is, we held that in fee simple.
Yes.
And we had them, restore it, take the irrigation equipment out, restore it, and then plant like a wildflower seed mix. So we could certainly make that a condition that they go onto our land and plant a wildflower seed mix. So if we could do that, then why couldn't we say put some shrubs in?
Yeah, I would love to see that entire 20-foot deep part of the backyard, which is not their yard,
Yeah.
be restored to something with all native species, especially because it's right along the brook.
Yeah. So why
Because
don't,
otherwise it's just going to be encroached upon as lawn.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, John,
Yes.
this is Roy Chambers here. I'm at 218 Thatcher Street.
Yes.
Just to remind the commission that it's the federal designated floodplain.
Yes.
So that's supposed to be open area for flood
Well,
prevention.
I understand that completely, and you certainly couldn't build anything on it, but something's going to grow there. And if we could control it, it would be, I think it would be a situation like, let's say that there was a Japanese knotweed that started to grow there, or, Phragmites or something.
Right.
We'd want to take that out and have something that was native and something that was supportive of the resource. So I agree with you. Certainly, nobody could build in that area, and I think that's a good point.
So
The other question I have while I got you is the erosion control barriers. What are those?
it's specified to be silt sock.
Yeah, and the purpose?
Just in case there's any disturbance to the land surface during excavation that results in erosion toward the river.
He's not loud enough.
Okay, and then they're removed?
Yep.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. That's the question.
Manganello, just to confirm, if you don't mind, is there any grading proposed as part of this project, or and is there BLSF present here?
So regarding BLSF, there's a note on the plan right along the concrete retaining wall. Steve, if you can just scroll up a little bit so we can see that.
Sure.
So, Mr. Chambers, the bordering land subject to flooding that's the state comparison to the FEMA flood zone, so.
Right.
Right, so
I
that's,
understand.
the elevation's 34 and the top of the wall is 34.2, so it's contained within the wall.
Thank you.
And there's no significant grading proposed as part of the project. You know, we have a note on there saying the driveway will be pitched toward the stone infiltration area. I don't think that would really constitute grading. It would just be some, you know, minor adjustments during paving.
So,
Wait a minute, somebody's speaking. Can you speak more loudly, please?
Mark, I have a question. Is the stockade fence or the chain link fence to be replaced? Does that extend into that 20-foot section or not?
The fencing, the existing fencing does, yes.
Yes, but is the future fencing going to extend?
No,
Okay,
the future fencing's shown in orange.
understood. Okay, so the future fence ends right here.
Yes.
Is there any gate in that fence so that the applicant can access this area?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Well, my understanding, and actually maybe my client can answer the question, is that I don't believe we were going to fence the rear of the property. I'm not sure of that, however. Lydia, did you want to just address that?
Yeah, hi. We were going to extend the fence all the way to the back, similar to the other properties that have it the same, that abut the brook. But if the commission wants us to leave it at the, where the property line is, that's fine. We weren't going to gate the back either. It's going to just be left open like the rest of the properties are that abut the brook.
So what is the orange line that's going across?
That's the surveyor mark where the property line is.
Yeah, that's the property boundary
That's the property line, yes.
right there.
Huh.
Okay, so the fence, I just heard is the fence goes to here, to the iron rod set, and the iron rod set here. But it does not include this area right here. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's fine.
No, Steve, I think what she just said was that it was the fence was actually going to go all the way back to the end.
Oh, well, we can't allow that. We can't approve that as a commission, right?
No, I agree with you, Steve.
Yeah, we
We had the
can't
same-
approve it.
We had the same issue on Canton Avenue next to Glover School. Somebody wanted to put a fence up that blocked the town's easement. In that area, the town doesn't own the property in fee, but they have an easement.
Mhm.
The homeowner could not put a fence in to block the easement. So I think Steve's right. I don't think we can approve a plan on somebody else's land.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just want to make sure I understood you correctly, ma'am. Did you said that you were going to extend the fence?
Right, we were
All
going
the
to
way
extend
back to the
all the
retaining
way
wall.
in the back, like the other properties, but if the commission, but we're fine extending the fence up until our property line.
Okay.
All right, that
And
makes sense.
But I just want to make sure there's going to be two types of fence there, so just
there's going to be what?
two types of fence, the existing old fence and the new fence.
Why wouldn't you take the old fence down?
I don't think it's on their property.
Yeah.
That's true. And I think it's probably consistent for that entire block that everybody's fences probably go all the way back to the brook, all the way up to the high school. Or the-
I think you're right, John. I think everybody's using that land all the way down.
Mhm.
So if it's not their land, Wendy, then they could neither take the fence down nor put a new one up, correct?
Or plant anything, or use it.
Correct.
Correct. Although on the planting stuff, we can make a condition, just like we have people plant trees off-site in different areas. And just as we had the folks at Summer Street put wildflower seeds on our land, which, they had disturbed. And that seems to be consistent with our charter to protect the resource areas. So if they were to plant something here, it would, prevent erosion. I know that it's fairly stable there. It's pretty flat, but it would still prevent erosion if we ask them as a condition of this plan to plant something. So the question then becomes, what would be the best for the area, for the resource area? And there are consistent benefits both for the town and for the resource area and for the homeowner. If it
Yeah,
was-
it'd be beautiful if it was just that entire 50-foot wide by 20-foot deep area was just all native plants,
so
And
why-
Wendy, you're talking shrubs, right?
shrubs, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So we can make that a condition. We just shouldn't approve a plan that it shows a proposal on the town land. But it's certainly appropriate to have a condition that those plantings take place.
I think as it pertains to the portion of the existing fences that are on the applicant's land, I think they'd like to still have the authority to remove those portions which, are on their portions of their property.
Mhm.
All right, say that again, Rob?
So to the extent that there are existing fences that are presently on their land,
Yes.
I think the commission could approve the removal of the existing fences on my client's land.
Oh, I
So-
agree with you 100%. Yes. I don't think anyone suggested otherwise. All right, any thoughts about, and Wendy, I know this may be near and dear to your heart. What is being proposed there? Do we have a landscape plan for that, the native plantings in the area next to the retaining wall? It says retaining wall, but I know it's the brook that we're talking about.
You're asking me if we have a landscape plan? John, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was asking for your recommendations as to what would be, good shrubs, good plants to make, and then I asked a general question. It was not directed to you necessarily, but do we have a planting plan for that area? And I don't think we do.
Well,
We do not.
there's fences, there's trees in the back of the area. There's
Yes,
several trees in the back where the fence is, where the brook's attached.
yes.
So any planting there would have to be native plantings that would be appropriate for a shaded area because the area is shaded back there because of the existing trees. So
And it's going to be very difficult to plant anything under the Norway maples back there, by the way. Um,
Yeah,
Just
it's all
because
Norway maples along the wall.
Exactly. So you can't really plant underneath a Norway maple and have anything grow. No offense, but you'd have to come out a little ways. That's all.
So I have to say, I'm not opposed to the original proposal. It seems to make sense. And aside from the fence extending to the, all the way to the concrete retaining wall, I do think it would be of value to remove that fence But I don't see a major
agree.
issue with the keeping the proposed native planting beds as is, understanding that it is outside the property, but I think it is an improvement over the condition there. And then with regard to the property boundary, I think that, it seems appropriate to stick with the property boundary.
But Hans, I'm not sure what you just said or meant. I think there's a consensus here that there should be some condition to plant something, some native species of, whether shrubs or wildflowers or something in that area, understanding that, it may be difficult to grow things in the shade. But I think Steve's original comment, with which I agree, and that is we could make it a condition for them to plant on town land as part of this, as a condition of this project. It's just that I don't think it should be, we shouldn't have a plan that we approve and that's recorded, showing that we're directing people or we're approving somebody's proposal to alter someone else's land, meaning the town's land. I think it's fair to make it a condition to preserve the town land, but I think it's incongruous to have them make a proposal to do something. It should come from us, is what I'm saying, as opposed from the.
I would say that so we could condition to have enhancement plantings.
Yes.
On the easement area between the property boundary and the concrete retaining wall.
Yes.
Similar to what is being proposed in the current plan.
Yes. And that's actually how I got to Wendy, is saying what would be a good species to plant there. And I understand what Steve said about the Norway maple and the shade that Lydia mentioned. I get it. But with those factors, are there any suggestions as to what would be a good native species to plant in that area?
I'm sure Mr. Manganello has some good ideas that he can suggest for us.
Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of tricky with the shade and the proximity to the Norways, but there's got to be something that would be happy in that spot.
Yeah, I'll also think about it a little bit.
I think sumac would do just fine. Staghorn sumac grow very fast in that kind of soil, dry soils.
Yeah, it usually likes some sun, so it might have to be set
Yeah, that's
Further.
true.
a little bit away, but that might be the right way to handle this, is to set the plantings several feet from the Norway maples, just to push them a little bit away from there and give them some sun.
Agreed.
Well, what's your construction plan here, your timing here? Because what I'd like to do is get from you a suggestion for a planting plan. But I don't want to interfere with something. Were you trying to do this now, or are you going to wait till the spring? What I'm really asking, does it matter if we wait until our next meeting in order to approve a planting plan?
Yeah, I'll let the applicants answer that. They know the answer to that better than I do.
Yeah, we wanted to start. What? Oh, we wanted to start right away. I mean, one thing is the tree there, and I need to repair the roof next to the garage that you guys saw when you came. And
Understanding that, and I do appreciate what you said, having seen the tree. One of the things we've done in the past has been to put a condition on a notice of intent and say you have to submit a planting plan that is approved by us. I know it's kind of a future issue that the approval has to come from us, but we can take a vote if it's appropriate, if it's deemed appropriate at this time. We could take a vote now and make it conditional upon a planting plan that you could probably turn around within days.
Yep.
And then we could move it along, and that way you don't get delayed on your construction plan. So I don't think it's going to be, too complicated to figure out what would grow there in those conditions and would be appropriate.
I like that idea.
Yeah, the condition would be a planting plan and the removal of the proposed orange symbols in that 20-foot buffer. That makes sense there, Mark?
Yeah, I think so. And just so we're clear about the fence, the commission does not want the fence to extend into that town of Milton property. So you want us to leave the existing chain link fence there rather than replace it?
I'd like to see it gone. The chain link.
Well, again, that's on somebody else's property, Wendy. We can't, it's like you've taken down your neighbor's fence.
But, well, so who do we need to ask at the town to get rid of it?
Here's Arthur Doyle when you need him.
I know.
It may be the select board.
Right.
One thing I might just suggest that, since the applicant is happy to plant the trees on the town property, it perhaps would be similarly appropriate for the town to condition this upon their removal of that fence as well.
Well, the first one has a benefit. Does the second one have a benefit? And what do the homeowners think about having no fence there?
I'm on a butter and I say no fence.
And the homeowners? Lydia?
I'd say a fence because it's the problem that we have is that the existing fence on both sides of the property is extremely inside our property line. There's about a foot on this side and I'm not sure about this side that the fence is, the town of Milton requires that the fence be on your property line. The existing green fence is on our property line in the back, it's kind of in further than what it should be. It's going to come out. So it's going to be about 2 inches out close to the property line.
17 inches. 17 inches.
Well, I didn't measure it, so I'm not sure what it is.
You hear me?
But Casey, yeah, we can hear you just barely though.
I know, because I don't have like my computer set up, but it is 17 inches on the back of our yard, and then we do have dogs in our yard, so we'll be able to extend the fence back on our property after this is done.
I think you've got the same problem.
Right. Am I going to have to cut my whole yard in half? Like, I'm going to lose 35 feet or whatever that amount is.
One of the issues, if you go back to sort of our legal position here, we're not able to.
Right. So the town of Milton wants to take back the property.
I'd leave the fence alone, and then we're not.
I would leave the stockade fence alone, and then can we put our 6-foot fence back up so our dogs won't go crazy when they see a car go by? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Where I don't know where your 6-foot fence is.
I'm on 6 Breck Street. My name is Stacy Golden. I'm on the right side.
It's on the right side as we're looking at the chart.
Correct.
But so, our concern about the fence is that that on the 6 Breck Street side is that it encroaches onto our client's property to some extent.
That's fine. I've already resolved that we're going to lose some area. But my concern is, will my fence, I'm going to have to put another fence across. We already have a 6-foot fence up against the concrete wall. right?
Yeah, right. We were there, and I think the fence goes all the way
All
back.
the way back to the concrete wall, right?
Right.
On town property.
Correct. But I never knew that when I bought the house, you know? We've been
Yeah.
living here almost 30 years. I'm very proud of that tree. I love that maple tree that we're going to have to cut down. I had no idea that it was so diseased. I'm sorry.
But you agree with it, don't you?
I agree that the tree should be cut down, yeah.
Okay,
I don't
all right.
agree with the fence part of it because I'm going to have to either extend or put another fence up on the, town property line and have a surveyor myself come out for me.
So I'm always looking for the path of least resistance here, and to the extent that we should not be approving, some alteration on someone else's land, meaning the town, then I think the path of least resistance is to leave the existing fence where it is. Am I correct? Both homeowners can live with that?
Well, the chain link fence is on their property.
Right. So
Mr.
now I'm
Chairman,
going back.
to be clear, you're talking about leaving the fence on the Milton property.
Yes.
only.
Yeah, yes, that's correct,
It
Mark.
would
So you
replace the
stop
rest of
at
the fence
rod,
on our property.
iron rod set and go back. Okay.
Mark, what you just said was correct.
Thank you. I think that needs to be clear to everyone here.
Say that again.
To be clear about the fence that's staying and the fence that's being replaced, the fence on either side of the property, the subject property here, would be replaced all the way back to the point where it ends at the rear of the property. It would stop at that point, and the existing fence would be left in place from that point to the concrete wall.
That is my understanding. That's correct.
Yes.
No, well, that's not my understanding, John. To put that fence all the way back to the Pine Tree Brook, you are building a dam
No,
We're not
wait,
going-
across the flood zone.
He didn't say that. He said to the
That's what
property.
he just said. Mark, am I incorrect? Did you not just say that?
No, I did not. I'm sorry if I was
Okay,
unclear.
well, why don't you explain it again so I understand?
The new fence would end at the rear property line.
Okay, perfect,
Right here.
Yep.
good. That's all right.
And this fence would remain.
That's right.
That's exactly what the proposal is right now. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes.
Well,
All right, so there's no change on the town land. That remains the same.
Good.
All right. And any other questions or concerns from commissioners?
Yes, John, I have another question for Mark. I'm in the house right next door to Four Brick. You're talking about putting in a proposed stone area next to George's garage, his auto repair shop, right?
It's the proposed stones on the plan. I'm not sure who George is and where the garage.
Okay, George is your client. Jorge is your client.
Oh, Jorge, yes. Yes,
We call
next to the garage.
him George. We've always called him George. All right. And my concern is that you're talking about putting in a driveway, a 2,800 asphalt driveway. And my concern is about stormwater. The stormwater runoff from that driveway would come right down to your proposed stone area there. Am I correct? Which
Yes.
is your drainage.
Yes.
Okay, that drainage area right there is right next to my cellar. Now, my question is this: with a 6-foot vinyl fence installed in that area, will that area that you're going to dig up and use as drainage, will that be sufficient to handle stormwater coming down the driveway, heading right to my back door almost?
Yes, I
with
understand.
with a new asphalt driveway, which is actually extended on the side of their house. And with the amount of rain that we've been getting, for example, just this month, we've got 6.75 inches, and along with 6 inches of snow melt. So with a stockade fence, vinyl fence right up against that area, and with that amount of water coming down the driveway, along with snow melt, is that going to be sufficient enough?
It's a good question, and Mr. Ivis asked the same question upon receiving the notice of intent. Just to clarify, this is repaving mostly. There's existing pavement there. There's only a 200 and, I think, or maybe it's less than that, 120 square feet increase in pavement. So there isn't going to be a significant amount of new pavement, but nevertheless, we did send this plan to a professional engineer. He reviewed it. He wrote a letter which we submitted to the commission today, stating that he believes it's an appropriately sized feature. He said it was even conservatively sized.
Yeah, well, you know, of course, my concern is that in 2015, we had 150 inches of snow. And we're talking about snow melt backed up against that fence. If we had anything like that again, we'd be in serious condition. Where does the water go? Is that stone proposed area going to be able to handle that amount of drainage?
Again, I rely on a professional engineer. He sized it based on storm events from a 2-year storm event, 10-year, 25, 50, and 100-year storm event, and he said it was sufficient. So that standard set by a professional engineer, as far as I know, is sufficient.
Yeah, I mean, you understand my concern.
Sure.
Is there currently any infiltration or any
Flooding?
stones?
There were stones there in 2015, similar to what's proposed.
Mhm.
When, the owners purchased the property. It might have been a smaller area, but it was similar. I didn't see it. I don't know how deep it was. But I know after the heavy rainstorm we had around Halloween, which included that 6 inches of snow, I asked the owners to go out afterward, the day that occurred, to go out and take some pictures of the backyard area, and there wasn't so much as a puddle out there. So the engineer's report included an evaluation of the soil survey maps for the area, and he said that this area has some very well-drained soil. So I think there's a pretty good natural infiltration capacity in the underlying geology here.
Okay, I just wanted to get your professional opinion on that, so that I can feel safe and not being flooded.
Mr. Chambers, this is Steve Ivis here.
Yes, Steve.
You are welcome to review the engineer's report, and it'll be available at the DPW office. Okay.
Okay.
And it seems to me that what's being proposed is an improvement, Mr. Chambers, as far as the management of the stormwater. Would you concur?
Well, I don't know. I mean, with you're putting in a whole new driveway, extended driveway, and the pitch or the slope of the driveway heads right to the rear of their property and right next to my property. So that's my concern, because I have been flooded in the past.
But that's not a change of the existing condition other than less than 200 square feet of additional impervious surface.
Well, it is a change of condition because you're repaving that whole driveway area.
But the pavement's already there. It's only 120 square feet, he said, of additional, so it's not much of a change.
Well, if I remember correctly, in the plan that they're putting in a whole new driveway.
Now it's
That's
just
not true.
repaving.
All right, then I misread.
It's just repaving what's already there, plus a little bit more.
Where is the enhancement, Mark? Can you show us or direct Steve to show us on the plan?
It's right up against the existing building there. There's a,
This area?
yeah.
Mhm.
See that little arrow that's pointing to it? It says proposed driveway expansion. So it's just a little grassy area at the base of the building.
Presently grassy, that will be a driveway.
Yes.
Is that correct? Right in here.
Yep.
This is going to be turned from grass to drive. Okay.
All right, Mr. Chambers, any other questions or concerns?
Oh, I guess it'll be, the proof will be in the pudding, I guess, when it's done.
That's true, but I did read the engineer report today, and I commend it to you for reading, because I was impressed that it seemed to be able to handle a 100-year storm, and that's pretty extraordinary. That's like 8+ inches in a 24-hour period. Hopefully we don't have too many of those, but as I read it, and Steve, you can tell me if I'm incorrect, but as I read that, it seemed to be able to handle up to a 100-year storm.
Agreed entirely. I was very, very satisfied with the report. Having read an awful lot of them over the last 35 years.
Mhm.
All right, any other questions from commissioners? Any other comments or questions from abutters, neighbors, citizens? Anyone?
Well, since you asked, I have one question left. On this proposed plan here, there are 2 trees that are missing that are not indicated on the plan. Is there any plan for those?
Can you tell us where they are? Do you know where they are? Did we lose Mr. Chambers?
The proposed stone area, right at this, they see the stake set?
Yeah.
Okay, there's one tree right there, and there's one further down on the Reese's property.
Who's the Reese's property?
They're the next, they're the abutters that are next to me heading toward Breck. They're number 2 Breck.
Back up.
Well, if the tree's not on the property, then it would be,
I was just wondering what the plan was about putting up the existing proposal for the fence. Are they going to stop at those trees?
Mark, can you answer that? Because I don't, I know what Mr. Chambers is saying, but I don't see where they would be. I just don't know the property. Do you know if there are any trees coming down to accommodate this proposed stone area?
I don't believe so. I know there's, well, there's like a cluster, I think, of forsythia in one spot. I mean, if there's a tree right on the fence, then I would, well, that's not necessarily true. It might not have to be removed in order to install the footings for the fence post, so.
I can answer that. I mean, we're not doing anything with the trees on that side. They're not on our property line.
on the property.
It's on the other side.
Mhm.
Fence can go around it.
Asked and answered.
Say again, Mr. Chambers, I missed what you said.
I said it was asked and now it's answered.
Okay, all right, good.
Right.
All right. Any other comments? Or are we ready to consider a order of conditions that would be conditional upon receipt of a planting plan? They would identify that which would be planted in that last, is it a 20-foot stretch, Wendy? They'd have to be native and something that would be able to grow in the shade.
And near Norway with maples.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm
sure they're out there.
I'm sure they are, but is there a consensus there that this would be an appropriate notice, order of conditions to issue with the limitations that we've discussed, including not removing the fence between the back of the property line all the way up to the edge of the brook, and replacing the fence only up to the end of the property and not fencing off the back of the property. That is the lateral line as we're looking at it on the chart before us.
Actually, John, and then there's a fence along the brook and keeping that fence as well. So keeping 3 sides of the fence, is that correct? Here,
Yes.
here, and here?
That's correct. That would be my understanding.
Right.
Is there a motion to approve an order of conditions with those limitations?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Come on, Wendy.
Oh, Mr. Doyle.
Arthur, hello there.
Hi, Arthur.
I've been trying to be invisible, but you caught up with me.
Well, your name was taken in vain, and I don't want to go backwards too far, but one of the issues has been that the land at the top of the screen as we're looking at it, but it's actually the back of the property, is actually Milton land, town of Milton land. And the property line that you're looking at is the orange line left to right where
Correct.
Steve is showing you right now.
Right.
So we were just having some difficulties trying to figure out that, well, we can't really approve a plan where people want to do something on land that doesn't belong to them. And the question was raised as to whether or not the town would be an applicant. But I don't think we're in a position to respond to that right now. So the consensus has been that we could approve the fence up to the back of the property line, but we could leave the existing fence right there because it would not be a change, and it's not on the property of the applicant. Did you follow all that?
Yes, I observed it and
Oh, good.
disguised.
All right. All right, good to see you.
And Mark, what would have to happen on this plan is you'd have to take off the words proposed native planting beds on this plan, as well as the little orange dots on the plan.
Yep.
But I would keep the erosion controls, of course.
Okay.
That's all.
All right, and then we would make a condition of the proposal on the applicant's property. They would have an additional condition of plantings on the town land, which would be consistent with our charter and our mandate. So with that said, this would be a conditional approval. We've got a motion on the table. Has there been a second?
Yes.
All right, there's a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 That's unanimous, Steve, for recording?
Yes. Yep.
All right, folks, thank you very much for your attention. And Mark, if you could submit that planting plan and the new plan for approval to Kathy and or Steve, Kathy Bowen, I think you know.
Yep.
And we can move this along.
Sounds good. Thank you all for your.
If you have any questions, Mark, you be sure to contact me, okay?
I will.
All right,
Great, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you all,
you.
folks. I appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you, Robert. Yep.
Thanks, John.
Okay, good night, all.
Good night.
Next on the agenda is modification of order of conditions at 15 Edward Avenue. Is the applicant here?
Hello, this is Chris Duffy. I'm here. Yep.
Hey, Chris. Could you just tell us what you want to do and why?
Yeah. So what happened was we had a proposal for a pool to go in the yard, and when we had a designer come and kind of help us think about what to put in, one of the things was believe it or not, TikTok videos. You're gonna say, what are you talking about? Well, if you look, the old plan had the pool. If you look in the house has a 1-story roof there, and we had it 12 feet from the house, which we thought was adequate, but apparently there are people that would be running off the roof and trying to jump into the pool, and they thought it would be a little dangerous being that close to the area, and decided that we should move it back a little bit from the house. So that's what this proposal does, is it moves the pool back from 12 feet to 17 feet from the house. And a slightly bigger paved area. That's basically the the gist of it.
All right, now I remember, I think when we were at the house out of Sidewalk, I asked a question and I received an appropriate answer. And that was, I believe there's a drop off in elevation, a fairly steep hill
Yes.
at the back of your land. And I think I had asked a question as to whether or not there was sufficient space between the side of the pool and the slope. Now you're getting closer to the top of the slope where it drops off. And my question is really the same, and that is there enough space between the edge of the pool and the drop off of the hill to absorb all the lateral pressure? Because the weight of the water actually will push out laterally. I just want to make sure from an engineering perspective that you're still far enough back that there's enough space and earth between the edge of the pool and the edge of the hill.
Yeah, so the pool area moved 5 feet. So the pool area is 30. So it's 65 feet from the area where the brook is in the back, and then it's another 29 feet, almost 30 feet to to where the pool is furthest back.
All right, yeah, no, I don't have a problem with the distance from the resource area. I just wanted to make sure, because I remember it as being a fairly steep hill, and I just want to make sure that somebody's taking a look at it and you're not too close to an edge. It appears that you're fine.
Yeah,
And that's the answer that I got the first time, and I know you're only moving at 5 feet. So,
yeah. My understanding was that we were actually, when we first looked at this, we were trying to move we were going to actually have the pool further back, and basically in the back side of the yard, and have sort of a grassy area in between, and have it further back. And again, according to the pool, the company that we worked with, they said that would be fine. And now we're closer. We're still quite a bit away, 30 feet from the wall. So I don't know an exact number of what that would be, but we were looking at something like 10 feet from the back wall originally to where the pool would be. And that was fine according to the people I had spoken to. But again, we moved it. We just changed the whole thing. And before I even came to you guys, we moved it, basically next to the house instead of putting it further in the backyard. So
okay.
I'm not sure, if I have an actual number in terms of how far it has to be or not. But
all right, I'm still comfortable, and I think it's probably a good idea to get it away from the roof.
It was actually
that I guess.
It was surprising to me. She showed me the video of kids jumping off the roofs into pools and said, 12 feet's probably fine, but you might want to make it bigger.
All right, any questions from commissioners?
Nope.
No,
Are there any questions from abutters or members of the public? Comments? So this is a request for modification of the order. So we have two votes, actually. And the first one, and Chris, for your benefit, we have to decide whether or not this is a significant change to your original notice of intent, order of conditions. And if it's not, then we simply vote to revise. If it's a significant change, then you'd have to refile a notice of intent. This appears to me to be not a significant change. So I'd entertain a motion that in fact this is not deemed to be a significant change. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Wendy. Is there a second?
second.
Thank you, Hans. Any discussion on this? And the vote is whether or not this is or is not a significant change. And the motion is to vote that it is not a significant change. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I believe that's unanimous. And then the next motion would be to revise the order of conditions to reflect the new position of the pool, which is an additional distance from the house, really for public safety purposes. Is there such a motion to approve this revision?
So moved.
Thank you, Arthur. Is there a second to the motion? A second? From-
Come on, Mr. Hamilton, I'm giving you a chance to shine.
Aye.
All right, his second from Todd. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks. Now, I don't know if you followed that, Mr. Duffy, but you're good to go. You have
I think so. Can I ask one more question because of the timing of this? We're actually ending up not being able to do it this year because of the weather at this point. So if I end up doing this in April, I don't have to, is there a deadline, like an expiration or something on this?
You have 3 years.
Oh, okay, great. All right. I hope we'll do it before.
I think you can make it in 3 years.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Right. Thanks. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Next one, number 5, is a discussion / approval of the conservation restriction for Wentworth Farms. And on this case, I did have a chance to talk to Todd earlier, and I acknowledge the fact that the trustee and the trust, he is not part of the trust, he's not the trustee of this, but to the extent that he has an association with Wentworth Farms, he has requested, and I agree that he should recuse himself from the next discussion. Is that a fair statement, Todd?
Yes, it is.
All right. So with that, will you, I just want to make sure I get your number because I can text you at the window. Just give me a second here, all right, to make sure I've got the. Yeah, I'll just call you on your cell, okay?
Yes, just call me whenever.
All right, fair enough. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, is there someone to present this? This is Marion's handiwork, I think. Are you here, Marion?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can indeed. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. This is just a request for the Conservation Commission to sign the approved conservation restriction. And this has taken so long to go through approvals with the town and the state that it's actually been 3 years since we began this process. But we're at the point now where we have all the other signatures. And so I can tell you that there have not been any significant changes in the conservation restriction. Both town council and the attorney at the environmental affairs had small changes that they made, but there's nothing that has varied from what the Conservation Commission approved originally. And so the only thing that remains to do in connection with this is that there will be a final baseline report that will be filed with the commission and that has to be approved by you. I'm still waiting for, Steve Ives has been quite helpful and has suggested a different kind of view of the site that would be helpful to put in this report. And I've taken that to the engineer. So I would ask that you not wait to sign the restriction because the report is not final. You did review it 2 or 3 years ago and approved what I had. So the only missing part of these views, and we're going to take some photographs because the road is now in to a sufficient extent that I can be allowed in there to take photos. So my request is simply to approve this final version of this conservation restriction. There is another restriction applicable to 153 Hillside Street, an A&R lot, which cannot be recorded, cannot be completed until this one is, because they reference each other. So it is important to get this done. And certainly it has to be finished before the 10th lot is sold in the development.
All right, and I assume that people have received a copy of this, and I hope that people have had an opportunity to go over it. I have, and I'm comfortable that it's reflective of that which we approved however many years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And the process is is arduous to get through the state because they have a very sharp pencil and they're not shy about making edits.
Right.
So I salute you, Marion, for your perseverance.
Why, thank you.
And I can see the ABC parcels. If you can improve the visual part of that, it's great, but I can read it. And if you take your time to look at them separately, it's all there. And I would note that there is an exemption for passive recreation, which is allowed under subheading 8. And I would note also, just for the public's benefit, that this, and Marion, correct me if I'm wrong, this does not create a public access right. It doesn't change, it doesn't add or subtract from the public access, but it does provide for passive recreation for those that I guess are part of this developed area. Am I correct?
Yes, it does. There's not supposed to be any change to the conservation areas, but people can go in and walk around and that kind of thing as long as they don't alter it. And that would apply only technically to people who live in this development.
Correct. All right. That's my understanding, and it was originally. And this is about 4 acres. I guess it's 3.99 acres out of a total of 12.73 acres. So I'm comfortable that this is consistent with what we saw before, and it should be approved. Anybody else have questions or comments?
Just want to clarify, what's the scope of the condition assessment? Is it going to be done by somebody with an environmental background? Is it going to be just a photographic assessment?
I wrote a report 3 years ago. It's just a descriptive report. It's not done by someone. Well, I will tell you that I submitted it to our environmental consultant. She reviewed it. The engineer reviewed it, but particularly environmental consultant reviewed it and thought it was fine. And the only reason it's still sitting here is that the development has slowly progressed. I can't get in there to take photographs of these areas, which are not being altered, except for the planting of some required trees. And I think there's a rain garden or something in one of them. But until the road is finished enough and I'm not running into construction equipment. So, I've just had to wait to take the pictures. You had this report actually in your file for probably 2.5 years. Many of you haven't seen it because you might not have even been on the commission at the time. I don't recall who was on it. So I have given it to Steve Ivas and we will circulate it again. It's still incomplete because it needs those plans or photos that are supposed to be in an appendix, but you might be interested in just reading it. It provides a good description of what this is all about and why these areas were created.
And just to further answer Hans's question, it's a general viewpoint of what's there rather than a species list or anything else like that. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Are there abutters or members of the public that would like to ask a question or make a comment? All right, it's my understanding, and Marion, you can correct me, that if we approve this final version, it will then be returned to the select board for their final imprimatur. Is that correct?
Well, actually, they've already signed it.
Okay.
It just happened to be the order in which the meetings were occurring. You're right. In the order of the signatures is you first, then the select board. But they had their meeting last week, and I didn't want to unduly delay this, so they've signed it already. The version that you will have to come and sign individually and have notarized already has the selectmen's signatures in it, and you'll see them when you do sign this. So the only thing left will be that there's a special procedure now for getting the final signature because of COVID-19 certification from me that I have the original and it has all the signatures, and then there's some mechanism for getting the signature back from the Environmental Affairs Secretary. But anyway, it will be recorded once you give me your signatures and I send it back to the state. So finally, we should have this recorded within a few weeks.
And should we assume that we'll sign with Kathy?
Yes, Kathy will figure, I mean, she'll have some procedure for doing that. I mean, I know even her office isn't open, so we'll have to figure it out. It'll take a while. It took the selectmen a week to circulate.
All
I
right.
appreciate it if you would try to do that.
Sure, and well, I guess we don't have to worry about, I was going to say Todd's brand new, but for anybody that has not done it, the DPW office is closed, but Kathy leaves a clipboard and a clean pen for you outside in the box. As you're walking up the stairs, there's a box to the right, and you just give her a heads up that you're going to show up, 10 or 15 minutes later, and she'll leave it out for you. And you sign it, you leave it there. You don't see anybody, you don't talk to anybody, but it's fairly simple. You just have to get yourself up to the DPW yard.
And that sounds good, but I just want to say that we need to be really careful. This is my only original of the document. So if it's raining or something, we don't want it sitting outside, but I'm sure you can arrange to call her when
Yes.
you arrive. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, we have to have a vote to approve the final version of the conservation restriction at Wentworth Farms. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right, thank you. Is there a second? Arthur, thank you very much. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All right, that's unanimous. Perfect. Thank you very much, Marion.
Thank you for your work on this, Marion.
Thank you.
Just give me a minute to see if I can get Todd back. Hey, Todd, John, can you come back on, please? Thanks.
Okay, let's get out of there.
I'm back.
All right, thank you. He's back. Next on the agenda, number 6, notice of intent, 654 Canton Avenue. This is a hearing. And do we have the applicant with us tonight?
Yes, we're here.
Oh, great. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, for the public's benefit, we did have a site walk at the end of October. We were present here on site, and we had asked the applicant to consider moving the garage so as to save some trees. I think there was some, well, I know there was some email traffic back and forth with Jim Burke today, and it looked like he had moved it so as to save the trees, but I'm not sure where the trees were that it previously was impacting. Can you walk us through that? And Steve, you might be able to use the cursor and show us where the garage was originally sited.
Kristen, and I'm sorry, the other gentleman?
Yeah, Leonardo.
Leonardo, thank you.
Yeah,
Give me a
thanks.
hand here, but this is where was this the area where the garage was sited before?
Yes.
Can I interrupt? This is-
Yes.
Oh, Jim, okay.
Leonardo, you mind if I explain?
Yeah, please. Yeah, Jim, go ahead.
Good.
All right. So we pushed this garage back about 10 feet. The original setback to wetlands off that rear corner that says 60.9 right now was like 70.3 on the original submission. The two front corners of the garage were at where those two trees are now, the 22 and the 15, I think it is. And see where the pine is?
Right up in here.
Exactly. So if you connect that tree to the pine across the driveway,
Here?
that's where the garage was originally.
Okay, right up in here.
Exactly.
And it's been moved in this direction.
Pushed it back to the end of the driveway where there's no trees, 10 feet off the deck as requested by Leonardo and Kristen. And
Yep.
that's where we're at.
So you pushed it to the west, is that correct, Jim?
Yeah, as we slid it closer to the house and into the end of the driveway. I guess
If I could just interject, we moved it that way. I think there was the poplar along the side of the driveway that when we had our walkthrough, you guys were concerned about those trees there. So that's why there was the poplar, right where it says landscaped area to the left of the structure. Yeah, right there, Steve, those trees, and then the ones right under where it says area. If you could just put the
Right in
cursor
here.
right in there. Yeah, there was that tree line there that you folks wanted us to notate that we were saving those, that those were not going to be impacted. You guys wanted to see them on the plan, and then we had agreed to move the structure. We had no problem. We wanted to do whatever we could. We needed to do, and there were two trees there where the structure is now located that were impacted, and then we were planting shrubbery to compensate for the removal of those two trees.
Okay, and that one of those trees was a peach or something, right?
Yes, it was a very damaged peach or something. Yes, flowering in the spring.
Right, exactly. Yep. And I agree with it. You said it was damaged, and I agree with that entirely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, for the public's benefit, we have been there. We asked the applicant to make some moves that would save some trees. They have done that just as we asked, and I think this works. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
And John, this is Steve Ibis. You also, we saw other shrubs being planted, and we made the judgment call that the shrubs being planted would substitute for the damaged fruit tree and the other tree that was taken down.
And just to say, all that shrubbery is already in.
We just placed.
Wonderful.
But by moving it, they didn't take any trees down, so they don't owe us any trees.
They took down two small trees to move it. Yes.
Correct.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. So what?
The damaged peach tree and another tree. I don't remember the name of the tree.
So then, what's the number on this, just so that we can stay with uniform precedent here? We have a 3-to-1 ratio, so if you take down 2, we'd look for 6.
Mhm.
And I agree with Steve wholeheartedly that we agreed to give you credit for stuff you were going to plant anyway, which is fine.
Okay.
So how many have you planted?
What we plant, I don't know the total number.
It was a total of 9 of the dogwood shrub. That's the red twigged dogwood. So it was a total of 9 of those and 2 lilacs. So 11 shrubs is what we've placed so far.
All right,
So
so you need 12 because we have a 3-to-1 ratio for trees and a 6-to-1 ratio for shrubs.
For shrubbery, correct. So we owe 1.
Sure.
Okay. So we can make that certainly part of the condition or order of conditions.
Okay.
Are there any other concerns that commissioners have?
No.
Hearing none, are there any abutters or citizens or members of the public that would like to be heard? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve an order of conditions with the current plan, with the understanding that they have credit for how many, 11 shrubs? And so that there'll be one additional shrub to account for the 2 trees that were taken down. And the other issue, I think you know that if you don't know, we'll tell you that any of the construction equipment has to be stored overnight outside of our jurisdiction, but I think you get plenty of space to do that. You can see the 100-foot line right where on the map here.
Right here.
Keep your equipment in terms of overnight storage and any kind of refueling outside of our jurisdiction.
Put it right in here.
All right.
Got it. I'm sorry to interrupt. How do we show that we satisfied that 1 shrubbery that we owe? How do we let you guys know that?
Just tell Steve.
Permit through the certificate of compliance.
I just okay. Okay.
Actually,
Leonardo.
the best way, Leonardo,
Yes.
is to put some flags of any color on the shrubs that you're asking us to approve. How's that?
Okay.
Perfect.
That's
How's that?
perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
And give me a call and I'll come down and count. Simple.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, with those conditions, is there a motion to approve the order of conditions?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Right, unanimous again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
too, thanks.
Two.
Next on the agenda is request for certificate of compliance 106 Forbes Road.
Forbes Road.
Did everybody get pictures that were sent around?
Yes.
There's some pictures on the screen.
Oh, perfect, good. All right. And for the public's benefit, we were on site on Forbes Road, the 20-something, 23rd perhaps of October to see this. And the trees unfortunately had not been planted correctly, at least not in accordance with best practices. We had requested the homeowner to replant them, and it appears that that was done as we requested. Steve, do you want to make a comment on whether or not this looks like good planting?
Oh, well, it's getting there, John.
Talk about being damned with faint praise.
Exactly.
All right. Is it acceptable?
Yes.
And is it practical? Because we have I think we always say 2 years, but I think in reality, if you look at the Wetlands Protection Act, it says 2 growing seasons. Before you can approve, they have to survive for that length of time. So if they're not going to survive, then it would behoove the applicant to do it correctly. But I'll defer to you folks on this, but it appears to be done correctly to me.
The best way to do that, John, may be to have the applicant post a bond.
Sure, because if the house is sold and the applicant is gone, then it could either be a bond or it could be an escrow amount.
Exactly.
I don't think it's a significant amount of money,
Right.
but I don't know if somebody else might know better. Todd, you might know if what you're looking at had to be replanted. That is, if a new tree had to be purchased and then planted, if it didn't survive for 2 growing seasons, and the new homeowner was there, and we said, look, you got to replant them. They wouldn't know what we were talking about. Is that what would the cost of something like that be? Do you know, hon?
How tall are those trees?
Boy, I don't know.
I can't see the top of them in the picture.
They're
Sizable.
Probably 1.5 caliber, maybe 2.
Yeah, they're 10 to
so
12 feet, Todd.
All right, so 12 feet.
Yep.
You're probably between buying them, delivery, and planting them, you're probably about $1,000 a tree.
Wow, that's high.
Well, I'm just saying, the time you get a nursery to deliver them and then hire someone to come in with machinery and do it, the nurseries get a lot of money for planting, a lot of money.
Honestly, I would have guessed more than that as a homeowner who did it. and my yard was a lot easier to access than this site is.
I know, John, on the bigger trees, the nurseries get $400 to $500 a tree just to dig them and plant them.
Oh yeah.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? This is Jim Burke.
Good.
Yes.
Talking to Sandy and his interest in trying to move ahead and sell this property. He's been willing to put up a $10,000 bond for the 2 years to make sure that the trees stay healthy. And I've been authorized to say that tonight.
Perfect.
I think that's more than you need, John. I mean, 5 would be good.
It's more than 4 trees. We've only got pictures of that. But
okay. I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
There are about 60 odd shrubs. I don't know. I forget what the count is, Jim Burke. You probably.
What was it? It was 40 shrubs and was it
11 trees?
I thought it was 12.
Well, maybe 12, right? 12 trees, yeah.
Not all of them were planted incorrectly. There were some that would, and I would say, then again, you're not going to have all the trees fail on you. So I thought $10,000 would be fair to cover any sort of catastrophic event for these particular trees.
I would agree with that, Jim.
Okay.
I agree as well. So Todd, for your benefit, we've been there several times and there are a lot more trees than what you're looking at here on the screen.
Yeah, I didn't know that, then I agree with you. Without knowing that and seeing there's 40 other things that 10,000 is more like it.
All right. So that would mean that the planting was done in full compliance with our order. And I think the bond will protect us to be able to go back if they don't survive for the 2 years and use that bond to replant them. So I think that's probably a good resolution. And doing so, we could issue the certificate of compliance, allow the sale to go through and still protect the environment. That makes sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And is there a motion to issue the certificate of compliance? Now I'm trying to, yeah, it is a certificate of compliance. This is the one that goes back 20 years, I think, right?
Yeah.
And that'll allow the sale and we're protected. So is there a motion to issue the certificate of compliance with a contingency or the condition rather of a bond of $10,000? Is there such a motion?
And I'll speak at once.
Yeah, I know. It's a tough crowd, Steve.
Well,
I know it.
I've never seen the property, so it's hard for me to say.
Yeah, I know. You're right, Todd.
That's fine.
Did I hear you speak? Did Arthur speak?
Yes, I moved it.
Oh, good. Thank you, Arthur. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, perfect. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate
Nice to get this behind me, John.
it. Finally. Hey, it only takes 20 years, right?
You guys have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks. Next one, number 8 is we've got an enforcement order at 33 Lincoln Street. I think we have photographs in our packet. And I know, Steve, you've been there. Is the homeowner here tonight?
Yes, present.
Oh, great. Thank you for joining.
Good. Good.
Just bear with us a second while we change the screen.
Okay. No problem.
Having trouble finding that photograph. I know it. I put it up
That's even better.
earlier today. Sorry. I'm not sure if I can get to it.
All right. Well, we've got it.
Yeah, you've got it in your packets.
Yes. This is a photograph, October 30th, 2020.
Yep.
Okay. So I know I can't see the homeowner. But if you could identify yourself, because I can't find you.
This is Payne.
Yep, and this is Amy Carwin. So,
Good evening.
hi.
Can you tell us what the commissioners have photographs in their hands as to what appears to be a lot of debris on the brook side of the fence? And the fence, I presume, is the fence in your backyard. Can you tell us what happened and how this debris got there?
Yep. So there's a big storm last month. So it knocked down a lot of trees from property. So a pine tree from a neighbor's side was knocked down. It's about like 50 or 60 foot pine tree, and then it fell over to the town side.
Over the brook.
Over the brook, and it knocked down a lot of, there's like one oak tree, and then we cut them up and we put it over the fence, and we did not put it into the brook, the Pine Hill Brook.
Right. Is the fence your property line?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, and I'm not trying to get involved between you and your neighbor and whose tree it was and all that, but is the bottom line that you took the debris, the cut up trees, and put it onto the town land next to the brook?
So when the pine tree fell and knocked over some other tree right next to it, it's also behind the fence, and then they fall onto our property. Because we have small children, so me and my husband kind of chop off the tree, and then yes, did put it behind the fence.
And I don't know if you guys can see that picture. That's the pine tree from my neighbor's side. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Yes, that's actually a spruce tree, Norway spruce, actually.
Oh, okay.
That's all. No, not a problem.
Is that the one with the top off of it?
Say again?
Is that the, are you referring to the one with the top off of it?
Yes.
That looked to me, when I went there, it looked to me like it was on their neighbor's property as well, John. Okay, just for your information.
The debris from my neighbor's side.
Right.
All right. Well, I guess we've got two issues. One, we don't want town land to be used as a dumping spot. And I understand how it happened. And I'm not pointing the finger of blame at you, certainly, for a tree falling down in a storm. But removing the debris would be the responsibility of either you or your neighbor. Our concern is, A, you can't put the debris onto the town property and then expect the town to take care of it. And you certainly can't put it in the area where there's a perennial stream, which is the Pine Tree Brook, which is pretty significant. It's a significant area for us.
Yep.
So my perspective is that I'd be looking to you to remove that debris. Now, you may say, well, some of it I put there, I didn't put all of it there. So maybe this is going to be a cooperative effort. But I'd like to come up with a plan for you to get at least that which you put there out of there. And I didn't know if anybody had any ideas, including Steve. I have not been there, but Steve, you've been there. Do you have a sense of what fell there, at the hands of the good Lord, and versus how much was put onto the town land by the homeowners?
I couldn't tell that, John, because the snow covered everything at the time that I was there on October 30th, actually. I have not been back since. I'd be happy to make a return visit, certainly, to take a look.
Sure. I mean, there may be a way to get this done. Oh, now you're moving it.
No, it's not. I'm trying to find that photo, but I'm not having success. Put it that way.
Okay.
Wait a sec. Here we go. Let's try that. There we go. Can you see that?
No.
No?
No.
Oh.
I cannot, no.
I can't.
Oh, I'm sorry. It says that you are screen sharing. So I've got the photo up on the screen, but it's not working. The screen sharing function is not working.
You have to make the screen active. So you have to close the screen that's open and select a different screen.
Oh, that's great. How do you do that, Hans?
Yeah, smart guy.
Yeah, I'm still fooling around with it.
In the meantime, I may have missed something, so can I backtrack just for a minute to make sure that I've got it straight?
Yes.
The tree that was damaged is on the neighbor's property?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
How's that?
I see it now.
Good, perfect.
Okay.
And the debris fell on your side of the fence, your property.
Correct.
And you took the debris and you put it back on the neighbor's side?
No, I did not put it back on the. I put
that would have been a simple thing to do. Next time.
Next time.
Okay. So you put it elsewhere. That's where the brook property is.
That's the book. That's the town property.
I've got it now. Thank you.
All right.
The brook is to the left-hand side of this photo. The brook is here, the fence is there.
Got it.
And the material is in between the fence and the brook.
Thank you, Steve.
Certainly.
All right.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Whose responsibility, like, if like your neighbor's tree fell and it fell onto a town side and then the town tree fell into my yard? So I don't know.
if the town tree fell into your yard, then it's probably the town's responsibility.
Okay, so next time I should call the town and tell them to pick them up.
I want to check on that one. I think there is something unique in Massachusetts law about trees and boundary lines. I've heard two versions of it. So it might be worth really having somebody give you some professional advice on that who's
Check with your homeowner's
in
insurance.
this area. I'm sorry, Hans?
I was just checking with your homeowner's insurance.
Yeah, another asset.
And I always understood it as if your neighbor's tree comes over your boundary line, you are welcome to cut it at any time.
It's correct.
Okay.
That's what I've heard the same thing.
What do you mean, if a live tree overhanging?
Yes.
Not if it kills the tree. You can trim it, but you can't kill the tree.
Right, exactly.
So it depends on how much of it, if it starts on your side and goes to somebody else's side.
Right. Branches versus trunk. That's a branch versus trunk issue.
Correct. Yep. It is indeed. So how do we get out of this dilemma here? Because I know the town took a look at this and said, hey, we didn't put it there. The homeowner put it over the fence to get the town to do it. And, we don't want to clean up for the homeowner. And I understand that to the extent that some of this was taken from the homeowner's yard and put into the town property. There may be a second dispute as between the neighbor, if that was it all belonged to the neighbor's tree. Is it just one tree that came down, or were there several?
Just one.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so it may be a dispute there, but I'm looking for the path of least resistance. How do we get out of the brook area, and who's responsible for it? And maybe the suggestion that you contact your homeowner, that I'd say the homeowner's policy, your insurance policy, and ask the insurance company whether or not they'd pay to remove the debris. And it may be that insurance company says, nope, you got to talk to the insurance company of your neighbor, which is the origin of the tree. But we don't want to just go around in a circle. We want to get it cleaned up. So I think some kind of a cooperative effort would be appropriate here. So Steve, you might want to check with DPW. I think their position already is that this was dumped onto our land by the homeowner. We're not going to clean it. And then if the homeowner could check with your insurance company and see whether or not they'll pay to get it out of there and what the cost would be. I have no idea what the cost would be to have somebody.
John, there's another fact that you should know, and the commission should know, is that a major portion of the tree itself is also in the brook presently. Okay, so a very, very large portion of the tree, probably the upper third, is actually in the brook.
All right, we're going to get that out of there.
So the DPW will be working to get that out of there in due time, I'm sure. But I will have a chat with them about the debris between the fence and the brook. The other alternative I can see is, well, July 4th is coming, and if the tree, if the debris is dry by then, you could have a wonderful bonfire. Sorry, had to say it.
Yeah. You might have a problem with the fire department on that one.
Indeed. Yeah, that was not a recommendation. That was a joke.
Good. And then if the piece of the tree that's in the brook originated from the neighbor's tree,
yes,
then it may fall on the neighbor's or their carrier, their insurance carrier, to pull it out or to pay for the cost of removing it.
Right.
So I think the best way is if and I can't see you, and I don't know your name because I can't see anything here.
It's Ping, Amy.
Ping and Amy.
Yep.
All right. If you could check with your homeowners and say the debris was on your land, you need to pay somebody to move it out. Will you cover it? And then Steve, you can check with the DPW and see if, because it's in the brook, we do need to get that out of there. And then who would be the appropriate person to talk to the neighbor? Steve, do you want to talk to them?
I'd be happy to.
All right.
Maybe this will
There you are.
help.
Now I can see you. Great. And if you could talk to them and ask the same question and say, A, is it your tree? And B, do you have a homeowner's policy? Can you call them? Because we're going to have to clean this up, get it out of the brook.
But John, I thought he said the neighbor's tree fell onto the town,
Right.
a tree of the town, and the town's tree fell on his property as well.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
there's two
wait a minute.
trees. What?
I thought there was only one tree that fell.
Yeah, but it's a big tree and there was a bunch of other trees next to it.
When it fell, John, it broke the town trees and pushed them into their property as well.
Into Ping's property or the
Yes.
My backyard.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Were there other trees in here in this area?
No, it was so
So this is a picture. So this tree fell, but then there was a bunch of, all this back here tree.
Okay,
Well, those tree, the branches from those tree fell into our yard.
okay, so additional branches came down
yeah,
Right.
right.
from your neighbor's side?
No, from the town side.
Right.
Town side, you mean that were on the other side of the fence?
Correct.
Right.
Oh,
They're all
interesting.
very tall.
Okay.
I think, Steve, I think what happened when the pine went down,
Yes.
it took other tree, it skinned the other trees and broke them up, and that's what ended up in their yard as well.
Right. That makes sense. Spruce, not pine.
Spruce, correct.
Okay. Yeah.
That's why we
exactly what
cut them up and put it over the fence.
Yep. Okay. We understand it now. Thank you very much, Ping and
So
Amy.
John, realistically, the stuff they threw over the fence is really not theirs in any way. It's between the neighbor and the town's property.
Right, and then the fence is broken too. So
That's on their side.
yeah, that's on their side too.
That is, the fence is their fence, the neighbor's fence? Okay.
Most likely, John,
I don't know who.
the town will fix the fence.
Okay.
I think it's a town fence. The town may have put it up.
Yeah.
No, you're talking about at the back of the property that runs parallel to the brook, or are you talking about the fence that divides your property from your neighbor's property?
There is no fence that divides the properties.
Oh, okay, all right. It's just at along the brook.
Yes.
Okay, understood.
Yep.
All right, well, I think the first step is Steve, if you can talk to the DPW folks with this kind of background, and I think you've got some good information here. And why don't we put this on just to keep track of it, put it on for the December 8th meeting for a brief discussion, but hopefully we'll be able to resolve it before then. And Steve, if you can find out whatever you can from DPW, see what the best and most efficient way of getting this cleaned up and getting the big piece out of the brook, and then stay in touch with Ping.
Yes.
All right.
Ping and Amy, does Kathy Bowen have your contact information?
Yes, she does.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You want just quickly to reinforce?
We'll stay on top of this and just get it done. Thank you for your courtesy and showing up. Arthur, you got a question?
No, I just wanted to reinforce your point about having the DPW look at any of the tree that landed on the town land. For example, living next to a almost 4-acre park, there are trees on private property abutting the park. When a branch from one of those trees comes down onto the park property, the town usually takes care of it. So that top section of the tree, the upper mast, going down into the brook, that would be something that the town would remove.
Right.
And going to
agree with that
point, I would think that anything that was sheared off from trees on the town side would also be taken care of by the town.
Right.
You may think so, but I know there was a discussion among the DPW folks when this first happened. So I heard what you said, and I think what you said was very reasonable. I'm not sure DPW would agree wholeheartedly with that.
Well, I think John,
going to get to the bottom of.
I think DPW is looking at the neighbors saying the tree was on their property and ended up in the brooks. The neighbors should take it out. I think that's where this is heading.
Steve, you better work your magic and be an extraordinarily good diplomat. See if
Right.
Thanks. We'll get back to you, Ping and Amy. Thank you very much for your courtesy.
All right, thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is enforcement order 26 Russellwood Road.
Okay.
Another issue. And I know we put off some of the discussion that we had on site when Charlie Colligan was there. And Steve, can you recall what we were trying to do to gather additional information?
Additional information? No, we were thinking about asking Hans. Hans wasn't available at the time when we were there, right? Asking Hans about the tree policy. Remember we were talking about that, Wendy?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Steve, and I agree. We were talking about the difference between the lineal height, measuring that way as opposed to the
diameter breast height.
The tree at breast height. Yes.
Right.
Right, and I know the homeowner was concerned that we take the small 30 inches instead of 32 inches, and I know that was somewhat of an issue,
right,
in terms of the replacement. And I didn't know if there was anything else. Is Hans still here? Oh, there you are. This was the question that we had on site at the site visit was that there was some discussion as to what the appropriate measurement would be because the tree was cut. And this is the one when the homeowner said that the DPW person that was Charlie Colligan said, "Yo, it's fine, go ahead and cut it down." And Charlie said, "No, I didn't say that." I just went back and reported that the tree was healthy, but he told us all with the homeowner present that by the time he got there, they had limbed the tree, and he said there's no way the tree was going to survive in any event. So the question for us was, what measurement do we use for the performance standard for replanting? And we had a discussion, but we thought we'd wait for you because we were trying to figure out what the appropriate measurement would be. And I to be honest with you, I think the quickest way to do it is to take his measurement at 30 inches and not get hung up on 2 inches. Because what we're trying to do is have the same measurement in terms of the caliper of the number of different trees. So if we had 30 inches, then we'd have to have an equal amount. And this goes to the regulation, which is later on in the agenda, which we continue to discuss. So we were trying to get your take on whether or not using the circumference as a total for the number of replacement trees to equal that same number. Does that meet with your
I'm
approval?
fine with that. And I mean, for the purposes of a violation, I mean, it seems appropriate to take whatever the conservative number is. So if there's a consensus on what that is, it's fine. But yeah, I mean, obviously the violation poked a very large hole in the in the tree policy I drafted. So this seems an appropriate way to close that gap.
All right. And Steve, do you have a sense, I guess, in order to have a regulation that we can consistently apply, I think we'd all agree that if we had the diameter at breast height, it'll be easy, but we don't have it. So how do you measure it when the inconsistencies in the circumference at the root level is
Well,
such?
what I did was I measured pretty much almost the smallest portion of the entire area of the entire area, and it was the smallest area. And what we looked at, Charlie Collingwood said, I'm sorry, what was his name?
Colligan, Charlie Colligan.
Colligan, thank you. He agreed with that measurement because what happens is these trees, this was a Norway maple, these trees have a flared base. Basically, it's a very flared base, and they very rapidly go straight up. Okay, and we looked at some of the other Norway maples across and on the same side of the street, and we saw that they actually do go straight up. So I think where I took it, Charlie agreed that that was the right place to take it. So 30-32 is fine. And that's a judgment call based on how the trees act as you go higher and higher on the trunk itself.
All right.
I'm good with that.
I can't tell. Is the homeowner on tonight?
Yes, we are.
Hi, good
You
evening.
see us? Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, you don't see us?
No,
The cord and an outlet.
Let me see.
I see a blank wall and some
A window.
in a window. Yeah,
I see the wire and an outlet.
right.
Maybe you have to reverse your
We have to
camera.
go.
You go, let's see. No, can you ask Vina?
Okay, hold on. Let me ask our daughter how to turn on the video. Sorry.
No, the video is you want a phone? If it's on a phone, you turn the phone around 180 degrees.
We on the laptop.
Oh, laptop.
Oh, really?
Look straight into it.
It's the wrong camera. The camera must have another. Yeah.
Right, must have two cameras on the laptop. That's funny.
How can they see us?
I don't know how to do it.
Hey,
Sorry, we're not a high-tech people.
Yeah, we just put the reverse. Yeah, we never used this before. Just put reverse. I think this is go to the back.
The back.
Oh, there we go.
Wait, I know how. I know how.
Sorry, we need to prepare this.
Right?
Okay, I think they just see us.
Yep. Okay,
Wow. Wait, did I do this?
yeah.
Camera front?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No?
You got it?
Hey, here you
Yes.
are.
Perfect.
We got it.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Vina.
So we want to hear your suggestion or your decision.
All right, what we were suggesting is a way to figure out the number of replacement trees. And the theory is that we take the diameter at breast height and take whatever that measure is. And I'll just make it up. I'll say there were 50 inches. And if there were 50 inches, then you'd have to replace a number of trees that would equal 50. I'm not suggesting that that tree was 50. Well, let's say it was 10. So you'd have to have, two 5-inch trees in circumference. Or if it was 20, you'd have to have 4 5-inch trees. So we were trying to figure out if that's the appropriate mechanism. And it sounds like it is the appropriate mechanism. And then the next question would be, well, what was the diameter at breast height? And Steve had measured it at 32, and I think your husband suggested it was 30. So I'm not hung up on either of those numbers, but
Neither am I. Neither am I.
The theory is that we take that number and then replace it with a number of trees, and they may or may not fit on your property. If from a landscaping perspective, if it's appropriate, let's say you had to come up with 5 trees. It may be appropriate to put 3 on your property and put 2 elsewhere in the town. So that's the concept that we're dealing with. Did you follow all that?
Yes.
Okay. So any other concerns that the commissioners have if we adopt that approach to the replacement number of trees? Wendy, I can't see you, but is that appropriate for you?
Yes, John, thank you. That sounds good to me.
Okay. So if you take a 3-inch caliper tree, caliper is a different measure than, is it the same as diameter? Is it, what are we talking about? Diameter?
Yes.
So caliper and diameter is the same measure? Because I
Yeah.
always refer to like a 3-inch or a 2.5 or 3.5-inch caliper tree.
Right. That's the same measure, diameter or caliper.
So there would be 10 3-inch trees, right, or 6 5-inch trees. That's correct? Yeah, the only problem is for the homeowner's benefit, you have to be careful because when you get out of the 3.5 to 4-inch trees, it becomes very, very expensive. So you wouldn't want to get, 3 10-inch trees because that would be
Very
wildly expensive. Well, they probably wouldn't survive anyway. So it looks like you're somewhere around 10 3-inch trees. That makes sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't come up with 30 inches long. Doesn't be slow.
Now I lost you. I don't.
I lost everybody.
That's a lot. We
Where
told
have-
them that
where have you
in
gone?
our property, we can place only one tree. That's it.
Can you speak up and ask that again, sir? Because I couldn't hear you and I can't see you now. You better get your daughter back.
Hi, John. So, John, we concerned that our property is only fit for one tree.
Okay. So then we have it's called a virtual tree bank. You can put the funds into an account that we hold for the town, and then we can use the money to buy the tree when the town needs to place it elsewhere. Like if it was a street tree, or if it's a Turner's Pond, or one of the town parks, we give the tree to the DPW. So you can translate the number of trees into some real trees on your property in some money that goes elsewhere in the town.
Okay, so bottom line, so how many tree you want us to replace?
A total of 30 inches in diameter. So
Okay.
if you were trying to get 30, you could do 10 3-inch trees.
Do you have any idea that how much it costs for one tree?
Yeah, we were just talking about it. I don't know if you were listening when we were talking about 106 Forbes Road. And that's when I think Todd said that trees of the size that we were looking at there were about $1,000. If you get, I think those are much larger than the 3-inch caliper.
Yes.
Todd, do you agree that
Yes.
between
Yes.
buying and planting would be closer to like 500?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you had to buy 10 trees, you could put as many as you fit comfortably on your property, and the rest you could put elsewhere in the town or just give the money into the conservation account.
Wow, this is a lot of money for us, John.
I think this is not fair for us at all. I think this is not fair for us.
Yeah, because
I mean, you guys come out straight, like, I mean, this is a completely our fault. And then this is told, I mean, we take the whole, this is ridiculous. I mean, Charlie, now he come down, he said that, and then, we have witness here too, I mean, the company, and the guy said, he come down, the neighbor call, and then he come down and he said, yeah, you guys okay? And now they told you, different story.
he know the law more than us. He's worked for the town. So when he came, the company, they just stream only one branch, so the tree is still there.
Well, I think Charlie,
But I don't know. He flipped. I know now he's flipped his words. He said that he didn't say that. So we don't know what to tell, because that it seemed like the chamber believed him because he worked for the town than us. So we just feel this is not fair for us. You know, we know that the tree is gone, so we have to replace. But now you want us replace 10. That costs us 10,000 plus the amount that we already paid for the company, and the tree company, they should know about the law too.
It would not cost
But
10,000.
they didn't mention.
If you
Hey,
could.
John.
I'm sorry, John.
I thought I heard you say 10,000. Is that what you said?
Because you say 10 tree and one tree, it costs 1,000.
No.
No.
Right.
What I was saying is, in the last discussion, you may have heard a discussion about a tree costing $1,000 to buy and to plant. Those are bigger trees. That's why I suggested you buy more smaller trees. And if, for instance, if you were to buy a 3-inch diameter tree, the 3-inch diameter tree would cost about 500. So 10 of those would be 5,000, not 10,000. Okay? I can't hear us.
I think, yeah, I think it's a breaking voice. We cannot hear you clearly too.
Okay, well, let me try it again. It's a $5,000 amount, not 10,000. The screen is frozen. Is it frozen for everybody?
Still.
How come it's 5,000?
Steve, are you
He
hearing
said
me?
as we can buy smaller.
Yeah, her screen is frozen for some reason.
Steve, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay.
Her screen is frozen, but I'm not sure why. Everybody else's screen is not.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why. Now I've lost her entirely.
Usually that's a problem on their end.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Wendy, what's your take
Okay.
on this?
We can hear you now, John.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that we were talking about a potential $5,000 cost, not 10,000. Did you hear that one?
But yeah, I got that. But
Okay.
to us, we still feel not fair and not really happy with the fine. We know that we already violate the law, but it's still not us have to take all responsibility, because Charlie's he from the town. He need to take responsibility for his decision.
All right. Well, we're in a position that it's a little bit awkward because we really don't have to make a credibility decision, because he doesn't have the authority to say cut it down or don't cut it down. He told us that he did not tell you to cut it down, and you say that he did. I understand that, but the point is, it was not a legal action. He didn't have the authority to say do it anyway, and we're trying to be as consistent as we can be with all of the citizens of the town, so that nobody gets treated any differently than any other homeowner. So let me go back. It looks like you're frozen again, but Wendy, I wanted to go back to you because I know this is it was a significant, pretty sizable tree, and I wanted to get your take on the technique for measuring the number of trees that should be replaced.
Yeah.
And B, the homeowner's complaint that she doesn't think it's fair.
Well, I think.
I'm sorry.
Oh, are they back?
Yeah, we're back. We're still here.
I
Go ahead,
feel,
Wendy.
I feel confident in the process that we're using here to to calculate the size of the tree that came down and to reasonably seek a replacement of that. And also, I agree with you, John, that, you know, while it is unfortunate that there seemed to be some miscommunication at some point along the line, underlying all of this is that our that the regulation exists, and you as the homeowner have a responsibility to abide by it.
All right. Hans?
Yeah,
I know
like
this is the one you
we
would-
said, you know,
Did I lose you, Hans?
John, can you hear me now, John?
I just hear multiple people talking.
Here you go. Go ahead, Hans.
So, I mean, ultimately, the homeowner is responsible for actions they take on their own property. So, unfortunately, you know, if they receive bad advice from a contractor, or if they misunderstood advice from a town employee that didn't have the authority to give the direction in the first place, ultimately it's their property. And they have to take responsibility for that action.
Okay.
We understand that, you know, I mean, of course, like, you know, our violated, you know, we didn't know the law, but then I still feel that if, you know, Charlie, who worked for the town, he knows the law, right? If he come down, he told us, you know, I mean, this you violated, you know, we wouldn't stop right away.
So
there's
if
no reason
Charlie-
that we still use. Yeah, if he just like tell us, you know, I mean, this is a you violated, and then you know the tree wouldn't be cut like that, you know.
Sure.
So he just come down. He didn't say anything.
Sir, if you let me finish. Charlie clearly didn't know the law, because if he did, he would not have advised you like that.
And Hans, I don't think you were there, but Charlie denied that he did that. He actually came to the homeowner's property just so that we could converse together with both of them. All right, thanks. Arthur, I don't see you, but I think you're there. Do you have a position on this?
There's an ambiguity here. I understand both sides very, very clearly. But I would hope that we could have some type of a reasonable resolution that isn't too punitive. I don't have one formulated right now, but.
All right, the only difficulty is in terms of setting precedent. We're trying to be as consistent with our policy as possible, and if we adopt this diameter at breast height, as we've been discussing over the last couple of months, I'm not sure we should change it. And then it becomes very ad hoc, and I think we need to have
I'm not suggesting that. That's why I said I suffer from ambiguity about this, not anxiety. What was the purpose for the tree being cut down again?
It's a good question. I think they've been there 13 years, and you know, once in a while branches fall. But everybody agrees that it was a healthy. I think everybody agrees. Charlie certainly said it was a healthy tree, and
so you have it trimmed. You don't cut it down.
Right.
Right. That's correct.
That's why that's the root cause for the cutting of the tree, because there was some branches falling.
Yes, that's what the homeowners told us when we were present at their home.
Okay. I didn't get a chance to go there, so thank you for that update.
All right. Todd, do you have a sense? And again, just so that you know my position, I'm not asking for everybody else first so that I can then come in later on and say, yeah, I agree with you. My position is that we need to be uniform in our application of our rules and regulations. Yes. And so I am very concerned with precedent.
The only question I had is, when you
assess the value of the tree? Are you assessing the purchase of the tree? Of what the cost to buy the tree? I mean, how are you coming up with the value, I guess is what I'm asking.
The way we calculate it is we take the diameter at breast height of the tree that's been removed without our permission. And then you have to replace it with some number of trees that whose the sum of their diameters equal the tree that was removed. So if you take out a 6-inch diameter tree, you got to put in 2 3-inch trees. If you take out a 30-inch tree, you got to put in 10 3-inch trees or 6 5-inch trees.
No, I understand that. I'm saying when you come up with the value of a tree, the cost of it, to buy a 3-inch caliber tree, if you went down to Blueview Nursery, I don't know, just to say it, just a general tree like a maple, it might be $275 to $300.
Correct. And then, so that's what we did. We figured that out as sort of the general cost. And then we look for the planting cost. And we
Okay.
That's
So
how it's updated. It's the cost plus the planting.
Okay, so you add the planting into it.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I didn't know. Okay.
No, but I don't know if I will talk on here.
All right, so we've kind of gone around on this because we talked about it at several meetings, both in the public setting and then at the homeowner on the premises with them, along with Charlie Colligan. So at this juncture, I think we have to make a decision. And we've heard from the homeowners, and they've been very articulate and very courteous, and they don't think it's fair. And so I think we've had a full discussion of this. Are there any abutters or members of the public that would like to ask a question or make a comment? I don't hear any. And given that we have an enforcement order here, and the issue is whether or not we should issue a fine, which essentially is tree replacement, although part of that because of the property would be a money contribution.
John,
Yes.
can we talk? You hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, you want to talk?
John, I just want to re-emphasize that the reason that we cut the tree for everybody here understand. The tree actually is Charlie. He came down, he took a picture, but the history of the tree. Actually, the tree has disease on it. Like I told you at the last meeting. Also, we have a neighbor to confirm that too. I also asked, Greg, my neighbor, about the tree has disease, and they said, you should find, somebody come and take a look at it, right? A couple of years ago. But the main reason that we cut the tree is our concern about, safety of our kids and our children is run back in the backyard and play every day. And then before we cut that tree, a couple of weeks before that, we had a big storm. So we see, like even the day that we cut the tree and a week after that, we see a lot of big storm around our neighborhood. So you see that too, even the town, they couldn't finish the work, they leave it there like, a couple of weeks. So, I know that our fault that we should get the permission before we cut the tree, but then the tree is not healthy like you said.
Is there any proof that you can provide us other than?
And also, before we cut the tree, it also like a big branch, it came down, and I had like 3 different company. One is from Canton, and one from Stoughton, and they came down and they didn't tell us about anything about wetland law, anything about that. So I should have talked to my neighbor before that, but I didn't know anything about it. Even the company, the big company, tree remove company, they didn't tell us anything about the wetland law. I thought like the tree in our property. So I look up on Google. There's no you have to have a permission to cut the tree, you know. So I thought it this belonged to our property, but the tree has disease on it. You know, I see a lot of like fungi, you know, around the trunk, and you know, some couple of branches is like that and fell down like, you know, every year, you know, when we had a big, you know, storm or windy. So, and I have a witness from my neighbor, you know, Greg, you know, I asked him about, you know, because I saw the tree have like, you know, a lot of fungi along the branch and on the trunk. And he said, you know, you should, you know, get somebody, some company come down and take a look at it. So it's not really a healthy tree. Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, since we didn't see it, when it was intact, we're only able to make
Yeah, but
judgment based on the trunk that was left, the stump, and the stump itself did not show to be diseased from my perspective. So
no,
it looked like a healthy
stump,
tree.
Of course, the stump, they don't show the disease on it. Yeah. No, but I have my neighbor, they can tell, you know, they can be a witness that, you know, I asked him about the disease on the tree, you know. I have you know, my neighbor, I asked him about that a couple of years ago.
And he said to go to an arborist and get an opinion, but you didn't.
Yes, I did not. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well,
but the reason I think there's, you know, I mean, like every year there's a big branch that coming down, so I have to clean it, and yeah.
Well, there is a difference between.
Or you're worried about your kids.
Yeah, that's
what you guys came down a couple of weeks ago. You can see that too. You know, the fence along the you know, the fence along the brook it collapsed. So that's, you know, add up. You know, I'm a bit, you know, concerned about, you know, our safety of our kids and the children in the neighbor. It's just like running back and play on it, you know.
And I think we had that discussion, and we certainly respect that. But there is a difference between trimming a tree and taking out any kind of a dead branch and cutting a tree down, a tree of that stature. So I think we have to move this along to a decision. Yeah. If anybody feels that, and the homeowner has been very consistent in saying that, you know, branches did fall periodically over the years. And I think he said that they've been there 13 years and they've got children. So I do understand that. I'm looking for a way to move this forward to a conclusion. So if anybody would like to make a proposal, I think we have to honor our standard, but if there is a mechanism for looking for some kind of an acknowledgement of some of the branches maybe should have been taken down for public safety reasons, and maybe we could discount it for those purposes.
I think that it's understood that for large trees, there's a certain amount of maintenance that is necessary for even healthy trees. You know, they're living things that grow and are affected by the weather, and it's normal for branches to fall and things that need to be trimmed.
I understand and I agree with you. I'm just looking to see if there was a way to move this forward so that everybody is relatively comfortable. I think we need to apply the rule that we have so that we're consistent. If there is a basis, a rational basis for a discount on that, then I'd entertain it. And that's why I suggest, you know, maybe we could consider, you know, some of the branches should have come down and discounted for the branches that should have come down. I'm just reaching for a way to move it forward because I think we have to make a decision on this. So I'd entertain a motion to enter the enforcement order with a tree replacement on the basis of our diameter at breast height as a sum of the trees that should, the replacement trees. So if it's 30 inches, and I recommend that we use 30 inches, that the homeowner has to replace that. So we could take that as a motion if anybody wanted to file a motion to amend that and add some kind of a discount for, public safety branch removal. That's fine, but I think we have
I
to.
move at 25 inches.
What's
I'll
that?
second.
What's
I'll
that?
move at 25 inches
It-
to reduce it to 25 inches.
All right, on the basis of measurement or on the basis of, some kind of a public safety discount?
Yeah, public safety discount.
All right, 25 inches.
Second.
Arthur, do you have a comment on Hans's suggestion? I think that's an appropriate one.
Hans beat me to it.
Beautiful. All right.
So I
Can we
second.
do 10?
Can you what?
Can we do 20?
We're not buying it now. You know what?
30.
Sounds
Would you
like
rather
it.
do 30?
We're really reaching to help you.
Actually, I would like to round it up to 27, because if we're dividing this by 3 inches per tree, just to make it a round number.
Can we do at 10?
I don't think you've got any support for that, sir, but, I think both the 25 and the 27 are rational. And I think we ought to keep it with the rational side. So Hans, can you live with 27, Arthur, or Wendy, can you live with 25?
Either way is fine with me.
Which one?
Either one's fine with me.
Okay, Arthur?
We have a second on 25.
Can we do at 10?
No. There's a second on 25. All right, that's the motion then, with a second on 25. So is that the motion? That's Hans's motion with a second by Arthur? Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor of 25 inches, say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Yeah,
Is that
agree,
unanimous
20.
across the board?
Yeah.
Right, Todd, all right, thank you. Steve, that's unanimous, so it's 25 inches.
Understood.
All right, so for the homeowner's benefit, did you understand that? That's 25 instead of 30, and that was discounted because of your good intentions and graciousness throughout this process. Thank you very much. All right, so we'll get an order out to you. Steve, if you talk to Kathy tomorrow, we can write it up and we'll send it out to you.
Of course.
All right.
Yep.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. We do appreciate your courtesy and patience with us. All right, next on the agenda.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is 137 Bradley Road. Steve, is this you or do you have a homeowner present?
I believe Mr. Gannon was on before. I did see him. Here he is. Mossy Gannon. First name Maurice.
How you doing?
Very good, welcome.
Thanks.
I would like to report again that the material that was adjacent to the fence has been cleaned up to my satisfaction. Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, and what about the ground cover? At one point that there was inappropriate fill there, but that's been removed as well?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Okay. So is there anything left to do?
No, the area should be revegetated, but it's under a hickory tree, so it may be very difficult to revegetate that area. Because the hickories are allopathic, so it's really hard to grow grass underneath there. But otherwise, no. Generally, no. There's nothing more to do.
Well, understanding that it may be difficult to grow anything there, should there be some other kind of erosion control? Matting, or is there anything to keep the soil in place?
Some matting would be nice, but not necessary. I don't think it's necessary because the tree actually intercepts the rain, heavy rains. So I don't think it's necessary at that location.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this has been kind of a long and arduous process. We've got two issues here. One is to correct the situation. It sounds like it's been done. The other one is whether or not it's appropriate for a fine for the violations. I forget, the original one was what, 4 months ago or so?
I was in May, actually.
Okay, all right. And that was removed initially, and then there were additional problems. We've been out to the scene a couple of times.
Yes.
But my view is get it corrected. I'm comfortable with the correction. Does anybody feel strongly that this should be a fine as well as a correction?
Just that Kathy Bowen suggested a small fine because there was some costs for the commission that incurred due to the recording at the Registry of Deeds. It was recorded twice. 2 enforcement orders were recorded at the registry.
So what's the recording? I have no idea what it is.
The recording costs are $106 a piece.
106 times 2 is easy, 212.
Exactly.
All right. Is there any, what, now I've lost you. Yeah, the applicant, where are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, there you are.
Right
Okay.
there.
How you doing?
You heard the discussion, I think, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so there's a suggestion of a fine of $212. But the real issue here was to correct the problem. It looks like you've done it.
Yeah, yeah. We definitely worked hard there and we removed everything. It was all belonging to the prior owner. So when I bought the property, I didn't know anything about it.
All right.
So I have no problem paying the fine. It's no problem.
All right. Any questions, comments from commissioners?
Can I ask you a question?
Of course you can.
In order to get a release, how do we do that?
That's a good question because sometimes we issue a certificate of compliance so that what we could do is part of the enforcement order, we would issue the fine of $212. And then as soon as you pay it, we'd issue a certificate of compliance. And that certificate of compliance would be recorded as it would essentially remove the original enforcement order that's also recorded.
But if you record a certificate of compliance, it's another $106, John. Sorry. It goes on and on.
Yeah.
But I would do it that way, frankly. That's the right way to do it. So it's on the record. So, make the fine $318. I'm sorry to say.
But Steve, who do I actually pay this money to?
I would be the town of Milton.
But Steve, doesn't he record his own certificate of compliance? The homeowner does that.
In the cases where he has asked for a notice of intent or a request for determination of applicability, yes. But in this case, we recorded the enforcement order. Therefore, the town has to record the COC. Okay.
Okay. All right. I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So going forward,
go ahead.
So do I actually pay the money to the town of Milton?
Yes.
Yes.
And
you would talk to Kathy Bowen about how to make out a check. How's
okay.
that?
All right. Very good.
All right.
Good.
Is there a motion to deem the enforcement order complied with and to issue a fine in the amount of $318, which will be recorded in the Registry of Deeds? Is there such a motion?
Okay, Hans, I'll second Hans.
All right, you got a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. All right, you're all set, sir. Thank you very much for your
Thank
patience.
you. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. Yep.
All right. Take care. See you guys.
Next is a discussion on the proposed tree policy. I think at this juncture, we've really gone through that quite a bit. And for a regulation, we have to now write it up and get it before the select board. And I don't know whether or not, Hans, Wendy, do you want to take a shot at writing it? I think we've had so many discussions about it, and especially tonight, we're talking about this diameter at breast height being the appropriate mechanism. So I think we ought to put pen to paper And Hans, you started it very well. I think we've shifted from the sort of the lineal estimate of the height to this diameter.
I'll take it across the finish line, John.
Perfect. That's good. So you can,
Thank you, Hans.
if you can draft that for the December 8th meeting, I think we could move forward and get it off to the select board. As our
Right, my free time.
All right. Now, we do have some additional business.
Yes, sir, we do. Which one would you like to start with, John? Your choice.
No, go ahead.
Well, actually, Arthur had one piece of information or additional business. Maybe we should start with that. Arthur, 167 Lyman.
Yes, we were up there for a select board site walk. You had preceded that event, Steve, and could you give us an idea of what your finding is? There's one, possibly two waterways that are involved there. One is open and, from my observation, perennial in the golf course area. And there's a culvert which suggests there's some underground there's possibly some underground water. Can you give us what your feelings are on your having been to that site and observed the situation?
Sure. And what Arthur said was absolutely correct. I'm not sure if it's a perennial stream or an intermittent stream that runs toward the west, parallel to, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the map for this. I have a map that I made. Here we go. Here we go. There's a stream that, can you see that?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we can.
167 is here. The golf course is here. There's a bridge right here over the golf course. Well, actually over the stream here that flows to the west, southwesterly. There's another culvert. It looks like it starts right here and goes in this direction and sort of stops right here. But I noticed on the GIS DPW map, there is a culvert or something that goes out toward Spruce Street. So that's the underground section that Arthur was talking about. The area of interest for the neighbor at 167 is this portion right here. It's actually the extension of Spruce Street to the golf course. The neighborhood uses this presently as a walking path. And I walked right down here, and then there's a nice walking path through the woodland, and then right onto the golf course here, the golf course bridge, and you could walk out to the westerly, southwesterly. It's a beautiful location. And frankly, I would hate to have that neighborhood access discontinued. That would be my view and recommendation.
The origin of this is the fact that the owner of 167 is asking whether or not he can purchase the land that Steve has identified between 167 and the property to the left. It's about, by my calculation, 37 feet wide. I believe it's 111 feet long on the 167 side and about 88 feet long on the opposite side. And this is something that's on the agenda of the select board, which is why there was a select board site walk about a month ago. And any observations, directions that should be considered by the Conservation Commission are on the table. We wanted to bring this to your attention because of the nature of the area and what we knew and what we don't know.
But it's public access to public land, correct? I mean, I'm assuming that the town line goes right up to the back of the property line there at 167 and the adjoining house.
Yes.
I don't know where the lease line is, but I believe that the town line goes all the way up to right where the cursor is. That,
Right.
Right.
that's all town land. Some of it may be lease land to the Quarry Hills. I don't know where that line is. But
We just
cut
want
off the access, and there's no value to, there's no public value to the land.
to
Correct?
just wanted to put this on the radar of the Conservation Commission.
Yeah. I thought we were there about 10 years ago, or maybe 8 years ago, when the park department wanted to put a soccer field in there.
There are at least two park department parcels, but they are not in this area. They are more toward
Pleasant Street?
along the line of the old dump road in the back, or what's sometimes called Ash Street.
Yeah, it's Ash Street, you're right. But Ash Street does come off of Lyman though, correct?
I have to look at the map and see if they intersect.
Okay, all right.
What does he want to do with the piece of land he wants to buy?
The family would like to, once the property is purchased, build a garage.
What are we looking at right now? Right above the 1 of 167, is that a garage?
No, there's no garage there. That's part of the house.
Yes, that's right.
The question is the property in proximity to the waterway with the bridge going over it, and then finding out what that culvert is all about.
Right.
Well, it's nice open space, and the benefits of open space should go to the public, shouldn't it?
Mm.
If they're currently being used as walking trails, then selling the land to the homeowner would stop that.
Yeah, that would be a real loss to that neighborhood, the whole community.
Do you have a view on that, Arthur? And I know I'm asking you as a conservation commissioner as opposed to a select board member.
No, just again, wanted to be sure people were aware of it because of the nature of the general area.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know the area, but I think I was thinking of Ash Street, which I believe is the same kind of access. It goes right up to the golf course, but it's further towards Pleasant Street.
Correct.
Off of Lyman Road.
Closer to off Randolph Avenue.
No, not.
Oh, that's the old
Ash Street, but it may be, there's a paper road there somewhere.
That's Ash Street. That's right, John.
Is it?
Mm.
That's right. And there are two parcels of park department land there, and there's also a parcel of town land there.
All right. Okay, well, is the select board looking for some kind of a, resolution or?
No, they haven't asked anything. It's just Steve had been there beforehand. We had a conversation about it. Just wanted to make sure that the commission knew that Steve had been up there and what the general lay of the land is.
So I do have one question. Would the sale of that paper road, would that landlock the parcel?
That's yet to be determined.
Mm.
Whether or not the land would be sold and be under what conditions it would be sold.
Is there any other,
Yeah.
if you zoom out, is there any other?
This will be on the select board's agenda tomorrow night. So what I would suggest is that we just have this as an information item, table it, and see what the outcome of the select board discussion is. And then we can bring that back to the table.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any other easy access.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think so. But Arthur, did you understand Hans's question? Because if you block off that access, how would the public get to that land, that open space?
Well, they should sell it with with a 10-foot wide easement walking path or something to the opposite side of the guy's house.
And that had been mentioned, Todd. You're right.
Okay.
Makes very good sense, Todd.
Yeah, and then that reserves him giving enough land to do his garage and people can still go in there.
Yep.
The question is, I think, from Steve's perspective, having been up there, as to whether or not there is anything of a Conservation Commission attention that should be brought to the surface.
Are you talking about value in the wildlife habitat there, Arthur, or are you talking about something else?
Well, I was curious as to, you had gone up there yourself.
Right.
What it is that prompted you to do so and what it is that your observations were.
Is there any jurisdiction there?
Yeah, I was asked to go up. Was it John that asked me to go up and take a look at it?
Yeah.
Or was it you, Arthur?
No, it wasn't me.
Okay, it might have been John.
Yeah, it was.
Number of months ago, and that's why I put it together, this little map here. And I would say that the wetlands in this area here drain again to the southwest. So it's a wonderful place for wildlife habitat. And again, there is a stream that flows underneath this bridge and goes on and on and on, parallel to Lyman Road. So is there a good wildlife habitat potential for that area? Absolutely. I walked down the golf course pathway, watching out for golf carts coming at me, and saw quite a bit of open wet meadow habitat just off this plan here to the westerly or the left-hand side of the plan. So it's a beautiful wet meadow that the stream runs through. So excellent conservation property in terms of function and value generally. I just wanted to put that on the table. That's all.
All right, sounds good. But Arthur, I think there's a consensus here that it's open space should maintain its public access, but I think Todd's suggestion is an appropriate one. If you can sell enough land to give them a garage, but still keep that public access open.
Well, you could sell them the whole piece, John, and deed an easement back to the town for pass and repass.
Yeah. I would love it if there could be some signage there as well, so that the larger public knows that that's an access point. I've heard that there's beautiful walking paths back in that neighborhood, but I've never been able to find them. But now I know.
So you're looking for an invitation, Wendy? That's
not necessarily an invitation, but just it would be nice to know that I could pass there legally without, infringing on someone's private property.
Yeah, access point for public land.
Exactly.
That's the invitation. That's, a sign.
Yeah. Yep. Just a sign. That's all you need.
All right.
But
it's really important because otherwise it gets lost, and
that's right.
And sometimes by design.
I do have a second item, John, if you have time.
Say again?
I do have a second item under additional business.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we've got a bunch of them, actually.
Okay. Do you have the Community Preservation Act?
On my list, Arthur. Go right ahead.
Take it. This was successfully passed by the town in the November 3 election. It would be implemented for funding in 2022. The town will be acting on this by way of a future warrant. A committee would be established, and under legislation, there are 5 bodies that are represented from the town on the committee, which can range from 5 to 9 members, one being a representative of the Conservation Commission. Allison Quinn, who's the assistant town planner, is the town's point person for this. She is working hard using her experience with CPA implementation in the city of Boston, which recently adopted CPA. I believe it was just a year or so ago. And we'll have information forthcoming in the not too distant future, but this is something that John and I have talked about. And one of the things that we can arrange is for Allison to come to a future meeting of the Conservation Commission with CPA as an agenda item, and she can give a full understanding to the Conservation Commission of CPA implementation and what the role of a Conservation Commission would be.
Why don't we put her on the agenda for December 8th?
Awesome.
Okay.
Will you ask her, Arthur?
I'll be happy to. If she has everything ready for that time, it may be a little early, but I'll ask her anyhow.
Okay.
Arthur, do you know, is she going to be also staffing the new committee? Or is she just helping with the transition to get it set up?
Town administrator to decide.
Because I believe, at least my experience from the committee back in Plymouth a long time ago, that there is, under the act, there is allowed to have a certain amount of the funds set aside for administration.
Yes, that's correct.
Cool.
And that involves a lot of different functions.
Right. Yeah.
To get the assessment side in there as well. Excuse me. Okay, I'll talk with Allison and see what she says and what she suggests in terms of a timetable and get back to you.
Perfect. That's great.
Thank you, Arthur.
Thanks, Arthur. All right, we have, and I think we've got a very patient guy on the line here, Mark Duffy, because of this issue at the high school that Hans was kind enough to pass on to us. Mark, are you there? I know you were there for a while.
There he is.
I am here. Hi, Howard. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you very much for your patience. I think
Not at all. Honestly, it's a learning experience for me. This is something completely new. I didn't realize this has been going on all along behind the scenes. You guys really taking care of our town and making it equitable and fair and pleasant for everyone.
Good, thank you. So if the commission members don't know, Mark is part of the Little League, I guess, and I'm not sure what your administrative position is with the Little League, but this is an issue at the high school that I think everybody's been included on the photos that Hans took, and I went up on Saturday and I spoke to the contractor who unfortunately had an open trench and machinery in, I think, our jurisdictional land. But I have to say, and you can pass this on, Mark, if you would, Bruce was a gentleman. And I was impressed by his courtesy when I talked to him on Saturday, and he did stop work. So I think everybody's pretty much up to speed on what's happened. And there was apparently a permit issued by the building department to put in a scoreboard outside the fence of the Little League field. And can you tell us, and by the way, so that everyone knows, I did issue a stop work order on Saturday. And so work has stopped, or at least I know there was some work going on today, Mark, that you told us about, but it was away from the field that had to do with steel or something. But can you tell us what the plan was and what the status of the project is right now?
Absolutely. Starting at the beginning, I'm the incoming, my position as far as that goes, the incoming treasurer of Milton National Little League, my baseball dad, and we, as part of sort of our annual looked at our fields, what we've got, what we need to run the league, to play tournaments, and just good old baseball. We came upon a scoreboard that was donated to us by a local business, A. Thomas. And we're looking to put it up in the right field of Donovan ball field being the lower field at the high school across from the practice football field. And there, the outfield, if you were to look at straight away left field, that is Pine Tree Brook that runs pretty close to that left field fence. So what we're proposing is putting the scoreboard at the other end, the right field fence, to be as far away from Pine Tree Brook as possible, but also to make that scoreboard visible from pretty much all parts of the field to those playing the game and to spectators. That would be right outside the outfield fence in right field. It's a rather large sign that has to be erected on steel beams. To do that, we need to put 2 concrete footings in the ground, approximately 6 feet. And we need to do that before the ground freezes if we're to do it this year, which is our hope. And we need to do it in a way that makes sense not only for the town. As I understand this, there's a wetland area there, an exclusion area within that 200 feet from Pine Tree Brook. We want to be mindful of that. And so we're going to try to do as close to the fence as possible. There's already a dug and put in fence there in the field. And honestly, this being our first go at it, we're all volunteers. We're all doing this pro bono, including our contractor, who's been lovely throughout, to try to get this done, you know, on a rather tight timetable here, but also in a way that makes sense for the town, in a way that's good for the area, in a way that's mindful of conservation efforts the town making. So really, I'm coming to you. Tell me what to do, and we'll do it.
All right. Well, I think you'll need a notice of intent. Steve, you may know this right now, but clearly we've got the 200-foot Rivers Protection Act jurisdiction, but I believe there's also a wetland area in between the ball field and the brook, which, and Scott, for your benefit, that's we've got a 100-foot jurisdictional line from wherever the wetland line is. But Steve can probably ballpark where that is.
I hate to say this, Mark, but that area is a former filled wetland. And we saw lots of wetland plants there today. Wendy and I were there on site. And it looks like you were digging in a wetland. I'm sorry to say. A isolated vegetated wetland, not a connected wetland to the brook. If you go and look at the hydric soil line, the ball field itself was put on Scarborough and Birdsall soils, NRCS. It's right on their data layer. If you go and look at the field itself, in the center of the center field, there's a drop inlet or a catch basin. Is that correct, Mark? Did you notice that? To take the water, pardon?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean.
Like a catch basin, it's on a surface of the ground at the lowest point in center field. Go there and you'll see a catch basin that's draining that area. It's built on a wetland. And my suggestion is put the scoreboard somewhere else, because otherwise you're going to have trouble even building it there. The forms are very large, but the wetland is taking back its own. That's what's going on, in my opinion. You know, I've only been doing this 35 years, so I don't know, you know, a lot, but I know some. And that's not the right place for anything to be built. Simple as that. Sorry.
So we have an engineer, but we have an engineering, don't we, as part of that building permit, have an engineering schematic saying this is what you need to hold the sign up in this area, given wind and ground conditions. And so based on that, we thought this is solid enough to get a sign up there that's not going to fall down on anybody.
Did the engineer go to the site and inspect it?
think you will have had to in order to stamp an engineering drawing.
Well, that's why you file a notice of intent. So if you want to file the notice of intent, go right ahead, and you can do that. And the Conservation Commission will look at the notice of intent. I'm their technical advisor, basically, conservation agent. In my opinion, I would look for another spot. That's just my personal opinion.
Is there another spot?
Is there another spot you suggest, Steve?
I did not look for another spot, but what you're looking for is a spot that's a little bit has upland plants instead of wetland plants in it. Okay. The only other spot is over far right-hand field as you come in, right along the toe of the slope that comes down. That's really the only good upland spot that I saw on that site, generally.
Along the third baseline.
That's correct. I'm sorry, no. Along the first baseline.
First baseline, yeah.
First baseline, Wendy.
Has the sign already been purchased?
Yeah, the sign's already been purchased and donated to us. The steel beams that need to be put in and the forms and the rebar that have to be constructed to put it in there. And so we were really hoping to have a scoreboard up there. And it seems like it's not a very big field. So, walking the ground and looking around and seeing the outfield looking to left, center, and right shouldn't be too hard for someone to ascertain a spot to put a 10-foot scoreboard up.
I need to ask
now, I
you.
understand there's wetland. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I need to ask you a general question. Why such a big sign?
It's tiny.
I've got to ask the question. Doesn't make any sense to me.
It's tiny.
It's tiny?
For a scoreboard, to be seen from home plate, that thing is below average in size. It's smaller than the one at Piatelli. It's smaller than the softball field one, which is right up at the high school, right next to Piatelli. And it's smaller than the ones we've seen across town and other towns. It's rather modest.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a scoreboard expert, but I stare at one every Saturday and Sunday for 3 months in the summer, and I can tell you that one's smaller. And we did, and purposefully so, right? Because we didn't want to put some big honking thing out there. Not only that, but there is a matter of cost and also the matter of power, right? Because you can't run power down there without a real effort. It's a real heavy lift. So we have to get a solar powered one. That would allow us to illuminate that board out there without running a lot of power down there. It was a little bit more expensive, but it made sense. But to answer the question put to me, yeah, it's not big.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, I believe it's going to require notice of intent. We would scrutinize this even if it was just within the buffer zone and not directly in a wetland. I mean, that's one thing we generally do not like, to allow for filling of wetlands. This is why this board was created. This is what the state and the town has asked us to do. So if there is another option that can be considered that is outside of a wetland, and my first suggestion would be to either retain the support of an environmental scientist or an environmental consulting firm to identify what the limit of the wetlands are out there. And then you'll know if you can move it outside of a wetland, that would be the best place to put it. And I mean, in addition to the wetland, the town enforces a 20-foot no disturb zone. So you're supposed to stay out of the wetland plus 20 feet.
25.
25.
Oh, I agree. I'm just, where can I put it in the ball field that people will be able to see it and I'm not in a wetland? Is there?
We would have to grant you a variance. Your application would have to include some way to replicate or replace the wetlands we are losing because of the scoreboard. So you would have to create wetlands. But this is the minimum standard for this type of project. This is the minimum standard. It's not, I'm not going above and beyond. I'm not asking for anything that is not outside of this is the minimum of what we have to ask for.
As opposed to moving it, so there's staying away from right field and where it is right now. You're telling me, look, Steve is saying, this is a wetland. You can't put it there.
Yeah,
Fair enough. Fair enough. I understand. I'm not wed to that spot. But can we put it somewhere else that the conservation committee is willing to work with for us to try to get a board up there?
It's not for the Conservation Commission to decide where you should put it. It's for you to decide through the assistance of an environmental specialist, wetlands person. So you need to find somebody who can represent you. The Conservation Commission shouldn't be doing the design. Okay, that's not a good thing to do.
No, I understand what you're saying, but we're a small baseball nonprofit. We buy
putting in a big scoreboard. I understand. If you're putting in things that are, I saw the size of the forms. I saw the size of the steel you're putting in. It's huge.
It's
absolutely
big.
Huge.
The forms have to be big, and the steel had to be big because I guess it's with the amount of wind that we get, the tolerances have to be, crazy. Bigger than they were up in a Piatelli field in the upper field, just because of soil conditions. But and I understand that you're not in the business of telling me what to do, but I guess I'm asking the board to try to work with me to figure out how we can place this board in a place that makes sense in this field, that we can just have a board up for the kids to play ball on the ball field without having to go out and hire a firm to do the whole design. We don't have that kind of budget. The board we didn't buy, but we are trying to put up. And it seems like a notice of intent that we have to do, and then another cycle. And basically that could very well just be dispositive of this and sort of be a non-starter for us. And so we've just got a board rusting up against the fence.
Can interrupt you for a minute, Mark?
Absolutely.
I think you need to take the first step first. And you said something that really resonates with us. You want us to work with you. We really try to be user-friendly and work with applicants. But you've asked a question that we can't answer when you ask, where can you put the scoreboard? We don't know where the wetland line is. We know it's close, and we measure our jurisdiction by a distance from the wetland. So we know it's jurisdictional land for us, but we don't know exactly where the wetland line is. That's why Steve and Hans were saying you need to have a wetland scientist, and it's not hugely expensive to just come in and say, this is where the wetland line is. If we knew that, if you and we knew that, we'd be able to say, oh, there's a place you could go. If as long as you get it outside of our wetland and hopefully outside the 25-foot non-disturbance zone, but we don't know where to draw the line yet. So I think the first step is to see if you can get a wetland scientist to just draw the line for you. And I don't think that's hugely expensive. Steve, you may be able to give me a ballpark cost on that. I don't know.
My guess, I do this as in my other life, Mark, I work both sides. I work the public service sector side in 2 jurisdictions, Milton and on the Naval Air Station. And then the rest of my work is on the applicant side. And for less than $1,000, you could get somebody to go out there, take a look at the line, write a report, make a recommendation. That's my guess. Okay.
And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a mom or dad baseball parent who might be willing to donate their services that has that expertise. I wouldn't be surprised.
Right. And the, okay, and then so the additional expense of a wetland scientist to tell us where the line is.
Yes.
Would then, I would come back to you and you would tell me if that's okay?
Exactly.
Or would you say, well, there's plants there though?
Pardon?
So if I came back to you with a plan to place this thing, that after the recommendation of a wetland scientist who may not be able to write a report that says that it's an okay place to put this. But if they do, and we find a place to put it, the board would be okay with that?
Well, you'd still have to file a notice of intent, but.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just getting the permit. It's just like getting your electrical permit. This is a wetland permit.
No.
So it's just getting the permit. But yeah, I mean, if it's a reasonable location, yeah, I mean, that's an easy decision.
Sure.
I mean, we can, if we have the right information in front of us for the application, we can close it in one hearing.
Exactly.
We just have to have the correct information in front of us.
It's a process. It's simply a process.
Hey, you might want to just put out an email to all of the baseball families and say, are there any wetland scientists out there that can help us delineate? I get the nonprofit stuff and everybody's a volunteer. I understand that. And we're trying to not make it expensive for you. But everybody needs the line. And once you have the line, then you would have to decide where you want to put it, because that's really a baseball issue. But you just have to know you have to put it outside the line. But you got to have the line drawn first. And we'll move it along as quickly as we can. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm available to for technical assistance anytime you need, with regard to process or technical detail, etc.
Thank you. All right, so if I might try to get on the December calendar for the meeting, I will try to do what I can to get a scientist.
Let me just stop you there. If you wanted to get on the December agenda, you have to get all the information to us by 2 weeks before December 8th. That would be that would be Thanksgiving. Okay, which is only next Thursday. We're on the 17th. It's only 9 days from now. It's impossible. I'm sorry to say.
Well, the only thing, Steve and Mark, is that if you got the delineation done, you might not have enough time to get in a notice of intent, but you could get a pretty good idea if it's doable.
Yes.
It's a good point.
We can put you on the agenda, so we hold the place for you. And hopefully you don't have to wait until 11 o'clock at night to be heard. But even if you can't get the final approval with the notice of intent, y'all have an idea and we'll have an idea whether or not it's doable. Again, I go back to take the first step first, and then I think we can expedite the consideration as long as you have the data in front of us. But without that, you don't know, we don't know. Right now, all we know is it looks like it's sitting right in the middle of a wetland, and that's not a good place to start.
Right. And we do thank you, by the way, thank the contractor for filling in the work that was started.
Mm-hmm.
Very important that was filled in.
Of course, frankly, it was my mistake. It's our first time around, and honestly, I'm a little embarrassed that it had to come to stop work order and all of that. We just thought we were just installing a scoreboard in the right field. So a learning experience for me there too. All right, and forgive the follow-up question here, but a notice of intent. Is that simply form stuff that I'd file with you prior to the meeting, or is that another step?
There are different kinds of meetings. If you wanted a ruling on the notice of intent, yes, it definitely has to be formalized. I think we often deal with information systems, meetings rather, where we get information, we try to figure out what the issues are and try to point the people in the right direction to get it done. But if there's no notice of intent, then we can't issue an order of conditions. And I know those are just terms of art. I mean, they mean something to us. But when we say NOI, that means notice of intent to us, or order of condition. That's what we deal with. But from your perspective, it's an application and basically you receive a permit. But the information systems are very, very effective in moving projects along more quickly. And we really do try to do that. And we try to make it as cheap for people, everybody, homeowners and stuff. If you were listening tonight, you'd see the angst that we went through, and we ended up, sanctioning a person for violating some wetland rules. So that we do try to be user friendly, and we commit to doing that with you in the Little League.
One other thing to mention, given that it's Parks and Rec property, correct?
Yes.
So if Parks and Rec will be the applicant, as a municipality, they would be exempt from the filing fees. So that would save you money there on the application fees for the notice of intent.
Okay, so the Parks Department would have to file the notice of intent?
Sign it.
Sign it.
Yes. Well, what they do is they'd be with the MNLL, there would be a co-applicant. And that's the way you get around the hundreds of dollars of filing fees. Okay. If there are no filing fees for a town project.
And Mark, just the background information, when the high school was built, I had lost track of, because we permitted that about 20 years ago. And there's a major stormwater retention basin between one of the fields, and I couldn't remember where it was. So today I asked for the plans going back to whatever it was, 2001. And there are drainage pipes. The detention basin is up in the upper field, but the drainage pipes come down and they're beneath the lower field. So you have to be aware of where they are. I don't think it's going to be a problem because it's between the baseball field and that football practice field. But there are drainage pipes beneath there. So it's not like you could drop the scoreboard anywhere. You have to know where they are. And I'm sure the contractor did a dig safe before he started, doing the trench on Friday.
Yeah.
But he probably didn't know where he wasn't near the drainage pipes, fortunately, but he could have been. So the park department the school department definitely has it. The building department definitely has it, because I looked at it. I looked at it today.
Yeah,
Just be aware of that there is a drainage system from the high school.
Yeah, DigSafe wouldn't mark that inside of the property, so you'd have to get the information from the school or from the town.
Right. Yeah.
But,
Right. Well, yeah. So we did get permission from the town before we filed our building permit with the town. But I don't know if, the parks guy I talked to, I don't know. It didn't seem like he was thinking about underground drainage when I was speaking to him. So that might be worth looking into. I'm not sure where I get that information, but they've been pretty good about providing maps from DPW on certain things. So
I'll send it to you today. What I got today, I'll send it to you.
Thank you, John.
It's wet, that field is spongy.
Yeah, it is.
And so if you were to pierce the drainage system in there, the field would get a lot more spongy because the water would build up. And so you potentially making another problem. So
yeah.
it's
Okay.
just something to consider. So
absolutely. Okay. Well, I don't want to damage the ball field while trying to put up a scoreboard.
Exactly.
Completely. I guess I don't need a scoreboard that bad. right? I guess we'll just mentally keep score of who's winning. That said, I have a shiny new scoreboard I'm tasked with putting up. So I intend to fulfill my charge. I think that within reason and within the rules. So that said, I will go back and work the process. I'll see what I can find with a wetland scientist and see if I can get you guys some lines and an actual plan that you can decide on. And figure out how to file a notice of intent and how to rope somebody from the Parks Department to sign.
And I would take Wendy's comment very seriously. There may be a parent or
Absolutely.
two
A resourceful group. I hope so. We've got a contractor, don't we? So hopefully, yeah. I don't know, and it may not be expeditious to follow that, even if we do, but definitely worth a look. Everybody's busy. It's crazy times, but hopefully we're not out of pocket for it. Though we are, and hopefully they can tell us that we can dig and that it's not a fool's errand. And so with that, thank you, board. I appreciate your time. It's late, and you might have a few other people waiting in the wings. So.
And again, I'm available for technical consulting. Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Steve.
Anytime. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone.
Right. Next on the additional business agenda, I have one more, and I know we're getting late, but 113 Woodland is an issue. It's on the lot is on the corner of Stonebridge Lane. And Steve, I don't know if you went. We had an inquiry. I won't call it a complaint, but an inquiry as to whether or not somebody was exceeding their order conditions on a house that a lot that we permitted. I don't know how many years ago, 2006, 7. I forget what it was, to be honest with you.
Can you see it on the screen now?
Yeah.
That's the house you permitted, I believe. I'm not sure. I haven't.
I believe that's correct. It's a very, very tight lot.
Well, there's a huge lawn back here now, John.
Yeah. Because we actually I remember we had a big discussion as to whether or not we were going to use fence posts or stones to sort of differentiate between that which could be a lawn and that which had to remain natural.
And you decided on, I believe this is a wood rail fence.
Right.
But it's not on site. It does not exist.
It doesn't exist. All right.
At that location.
This was a very controversial project because off to the left of the screen, there is a vernal pool. And
right in here.
We had a quorum on the night that the order conditions was denied. And 2 of us voted in favor of it because the vernal pool was more than 100 feet away, but 2 voted to deny the permit. So the motion did not carry. And the basis of voting to deny the permit was that the runoff down the hill, this is a pretty steep hill, would somehow impact the vernal pool. So since the motion did not carry, the applicant appealed it to the Superior Court because it was the town bylaw that says you can't do anything within 100 feet of the vernal pool. So it went to the Superior Court and the ruling was overturned. I mean, I really felt like a bit of a hypocrite because I wrote the order, but I had voted to issue it, but I had to write the opinion denying it because the motion didn't carry. And the Superior Court overturned it and said, no, it's outside the 100 feet. So the strict construction is, you can't deny it if it's outside the 100 feet. So they built it, but we had pretty stringent conditions on this. And a neighbor, a passerby, indicated some concern that the folks that bought the house, and it's a very, very tight footprint there because most of the lot is wet. So the person was pretty sharp. So I asked Steve to take a look at it. And it looks like it's something that we should take a look at to make sure that the original order of conditions is being complied with. Because this was an area that was near and dear to the heart of Judith. And Ingrid, actually. So, and I know she's not here tonight, but I'm sure she'll be very interested in taking a look at this one, because I know she'll remember this one.
Oh, yes.
But what does it look like now? The back of the lot, that is away from the roadway, is lawn?
Yes, this entire area here is lawn.
All right.
And it's within the 25-foot buffer to the wetland itself.
The lawn is?
Yes, sir.
We were pretty careful. Did you pull the order of conditions?
Yes, I did. And the Superior Court overturning.
Okay. Okay.
But I think I would rather, have the commission take a look at it, John. I think that's
I'm 100% with that. This is definitely a site visit.
right.
What's a good day for this for anybody? And Todd, for your benefit, we usually do it on Saturday morning. We used to do it at 8, and then Wendy won and said, no more 8 o'clock.
No, Wendy and Steve.
6:30, 5:30, 6 in the morning.
Oh, God, no. I don't think there's oxygen at that time of day.
Well, tomorrow morning, I got to be up at 5 o'clock and go, so I'm used to it.
You're a charmer, Wendy, because nobody else got 8 o'clock with John.
I'll show up at 8, John.
They tried.
8 o'clock's good.
Not for Wendy, it's not.
Well, I was voting for 9, but we have compromised in the past to 8:30, and I'm okay with that.
So how about this Saturday? Are people available this Saturday?
I can be there.
Yes.
I'm good.
Yes.
Wendy's good. Hans?
I believe. Maybe.
Maybe. Okay, we'll put you down as a maybe. Arthur, what about you?
I think I'm okay.
Oh, good. All right. Steve, will you ask Kathy to announce that as a public meeting?
I would be happy to.
And we should, because we're going to have to walk, kind of by the house, not literally through it, but it's a tight driveway. So we probably ought to give them a heads up.
Yes, I have their phone numbers.
Good. All right, perfect. All right, so we'll meet there at 8:30 on Saturday morning. All right? Perfect. And
Do
then
we have a full agenda for Saturday, or is it
No,
pretty
that's the only
light?
one. That's the only one.
That's the only one.
Oh,
That's it. So it's quick, get it out.
wow.
Oh, so we can do it at 6 then.
You can.
But we're not done just yet here.
What else?
Okay, so we have a request from the folks at 1196 Canton Ave. This, I will show you a picture. I think you've all seen the picture perhaps, except for maybe Todd. Let's see if I can find it here.
1196, that's not the stone.
1196 Canton Ave, yes. That's who you're thinking of, John.
No, say it ain't so.
Hang on a second. I can't find the picture.
The stone gatehouse? It's actually the barn. It was originally the barn. The gatehouse is.
The barn's across the street, right?
Yeah, you're right. It is the barn. It's not the gatehouse, it's the barn.
Yeah,
Right.
the stone barn.
Yeah,
Right.
but that's not it. That's not what we're looking at here.
No. What we're looking at, I think I sent the picture around. It's a tree that they want to take down right at the street, and the tree has the 1196 sign on it. And I'm sorry, I'm not versatile with this stuff here yet. Oh, it's a photo. That's why. I'm supposed to be looking for a photo. So maybe it's in this. No, that's, in any case, there's a 30 some odd inch maple tree that the folks would like to take down. And we had a request from Bilecki Horticultural to do it, a letter request. He says he has 2 bald cypress and 1 red maple to replace the tree with. Did you want to put it on the December 8th agenda, or did you want to take a look at it as we go by? Because we'll be literally around the corner from there on Saturday.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, put that on the agenda for
Saturday morning?
Yes, sir.
Very good. 2 other things. There was a Milton gas line maintenance notice and a safety improvements for Adams and Squantum Street. Just wanted to announce those. I think you all have gotten copies.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
I read it.
Okay. And that's all I have.
Good. Then I think we're good to go, are we?
I hope so.
It was much longer than I expected. I thought this was going to be a quick night. So thank you for your patience and perseverance. So I'll see everybody. Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Good.
Aye.
We'll adjourn. See you Saturday.
Okay. Bye. Al. Great to see you on the Conservation Commission.
What's that?
I was just saying, Todd, great to see him on the Conservation Commission.
Yes,
Yeah, good.
glad you're here, Todd.
Well, we'll see if I can do anything.
Oh, no, you already have. You've already been important.
So far, so
Already up
good.
tonight. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So Saturday, we're meeting at Woodlawn, right?
Yes. 1:30.
Okay.
What
All
was it, Steve? The number again?
113.
113.
113
That's it.
Woodlawn.
Gotcha.
If
Thank you.
I'm there before you, you can't miss the van. Okay.
Right, Woodlawn, not Woodlot, right?
That's correct. Wood. It's wood something or other. What is it, John? What is it, Arthur?
I think it's. Is it a Woodlawn? Woodlane?
Hang on a second. Hang on a second. I've got
Off
the
Canton Avenue, right?
I've got the letter right here. Well, Canton Ave. It's right off of Canton Ave. Nope. Hang on a second.
Yeah, that's Woodlawn.
Woodlawn. Doesn't
Woodlot
sound
is the street light.
right. Hang on a
shenanigans.
second. Let me go back to that plan. I just had the plan.